It's time for Twit This Week in Tech. The wonderful Georgia Dow is here from Consumer Reports' Nicholas De Leon and MacBreak Weekly's Andy Ihnatko. Somebody stole Seth Green's Bored Ape. Uh-oh. A problem with the new antitrust bill. DuckDuck don't if you want privacy. And we'll show you Apple's self-repair program and why you probably shouldn't try to do this at home. It's all coming up next on Twit.
Podcasts you love.
From people you trust.
This is Twit.
This is Twit, This Week in Tech, episode 877, recorded Sunday, May 29th, 2022. First, you need Bootstraps. This episode of This Week in Tech is brought to you by Zapier. Zapier makes it easy to connect all your apps, automate routine tasks, and streamline your processes. Try Zapier for free today at zapier.com/twit. And by userway.org. Userway is the world's #1 accessibility solution. It's committed to enabling the fundamental human right of digital accessibility for everyone. When you're ready to make your site compliant, deciding which solution to use is an easy choice to make. Go to userway.org/twit for 30% off Userway's AI-powered accessibility solution. And by Trade Coffee. Right now, Trade is offering new subscribers a total of $30 off their first order, plus free shipping when you go to drinktrade.com/twit. That's more than 40 cups of coffee for free. Get started by taking their quiz and let Trade find a coffee you'll love. And by Privacy.com. Privacy lets you buy things online using virtual cards instead of having to use your real ones, protecting your financial identity on the internet. Right now, new customers will automatically get $5 to spend on their first purchase. Go to privacy.com/twit to sign up now. It's time for Twit This Week in Tech, the show where we cover the week's news with wonderful people like Georgia Dow, anxiety-videos.com. She is, of course, on YouTube, youtube.com/Georgia Dow, where she does those wonderful Therapist Reacts and Therapist Explains videos. Hi, Georgia.
Hi.
I've watched your How to Be a Better Listener.
Oh, good.
I'm sure it's completely coincidental that you did it the day before you showed up here.
Right. It was just a coincidence. Yeah.
Right?
Of course it was. It wasn't aimed at anyone.
Yeah. All right. But I'm going to do my best to listen to you this week.
Fair. Thank you.
No more interrupting. Anyway, it's great to see you. Welcome. Why are you wearing a Hellfire Club t-shirt?
Okay, so this is for my next video, which is going to be a Stranger Things video. And so I painted it myself. I'm really proud because I didn't think it was going to turn out really well. But I think it turned out like pretty bloody close. Like it was,
I thought it was
touch and go.
Yeah, I thought
Yeah,
this.
thank you. Such
obviously.
a compliment.
Yeah, very fancy.
No, I actually put the sheet of paper underneath the iPad, brightness on, and then I traced it, then painted it all through. It was a relative nightmare, but I think it turned out okay.
Just for future reference, what kind of ink do you use to paint a t-shirt?
Acrylic.
It won't wash out?
Nope. You do have to be a little bit careful. If it's very thick, it might crack, but I wash
Right.
them by hand after.
And I take it Hellfire Club has something to do with Stranger Things.
It does.
All right. Oh, in fact, they have apparently Hellfire Club t-shirts in Stranger Things. Okay. So there's a reason.
Oh, yeah. Sorry. Yeah.
There's a reason.
Mentioned that. I'm sorry.
Okay. I didn't know.
They're wearing,
I didn't know.
This is their T-shirt for their D&D group. So.
Got it.
So, yeah. So they're wearing it.
Awesome. Great to have you also with us. He's a regular on WGBH in Boston and on MacBreak Weekly every Tuesday on this network. Andy Ihnatko, good to see you.
Good to see you on a weekend.
We never get to see you on Sundays.
Yeah, you have to see me after seeing like lots of Sunday comics and had a good diner breakfast and even a 2-hour walk in the sunshine and then a half-hour pass out after I realized that,
Perfect.
oh my God, it's now like 88 degrees and humid. It hasn't been that way for 8 months.
Any day in which you can get in a nap is a good day, I think.
Exactly.
That's my
That's an app you wake up from. Let's be clear.
Good. Yes. Important qualification.
Mission accomplished.
Also here from Consumer Reports, he's their technology reporter, the great Nicholas De Leon. Good to see you, Nicholas.
Hey, Leo. Thank you for having me.
Thanks for joining us. Really good to have you.
My pleasure.
I guess we have to start with Seth Green's Bored Ape. The story of the week. Seth Green has apparently a fairly large NFT collection. And he has created a TV show based on his collection called White Horse Tavern. The show, according to BuzzFeed, is based on the question, what if your friendly neighborhood bartender was Bored Ape Yacht Club number 8398? And by the way, even though it is an NFT, I'm going to display a picture of Bored Ape 9398. You do not own this. You're just seeing it. Do not get confused. He is a sad-looking, blue-eyed ape smoking a reefer, it looks like. But wait a minute, there's a filter tip, so it must be just a crumpled-up cigarette. He has a halo, and he has a skeleton T-shirt. And in fact, if you look, that is his properties. Purple bone tee, sad brown halo, bored unshaven. So why is this important? Oh, notice at the top, reported for suspicious activity. Apparently, Seth Green got phished. And I'm not sure, but I'm going to guess this has to do with a common problem people have with NFTs. You have a public key, which you can give out. You have a private key, which you should never, ever, under any circumstances, reveal. Apparently, some scammers got his private key and stole, I tells you, Bored Ape Yacht Club number 8398. We found this out, by the way, at the big VCon conference, Gary V's NFT shilling conference last weekend in Minnesota. He says, and I think the law is unclear, that because his ape was stolen, he no longer has the copyright, and the whole show is up in the air. It was purchased by somebody who then sold it on for $200,000 to a doctor in Australia who goes by the handle Darkwing84. $200,000 he bought it for, put it in a vault called GBE Vault where it sits today. Seth has been trying to get a hold of the guy. The guy says, I'm not giving it to you. It's really unclear on what happens now to the whole cartoon show. Some say that if Seth makes the show, he'll be sued by Darkwing84. Some say Seth could go after Darkwing84. All that's happened so far is that OpenSea has put a little thing on it so he can't sell it forward, reported for suspicious activity.
I would have never heard about the show, anything, if not for his NFT being stolen. I'm like, this is the best thing for the show because I wouldn't have heard of it. I wouldn't have wanted to watch it. I think it's probably worth the $200,000 just in advertising.
Could be, for all we know. I mean, I think there is a speculation that a lot of NFTs are sold kind of by the owner to the owner anonymously just to pump up the value of it. Interesting. By the way, I'll stop calling him 8398. His real name is Fred Simeon.
There you go. Yeah, it's
not as nefarious sounding.
No.
It's not exactly a Bond villain sort of thing. But how many of the problems of NFTs does this point out? That if we're talking, when NFTs first became a thing, I was very intrigued by it because there's all kinds of digital art that can't really enter the art market the way that anything that's actually not simply made out of electrons can manage. And if you've ever gone to like a really good city art museum, you can see there's some rooms where the TV screen isn't and the projector isn't the artwork. It's the video that was created for this artwork, and the interaction between the persons and these sensors is part of the artwork. And it's intriguing to see how far this can go, but it's not going to go that far if these artists can't plug into the same phony baloney hyperinflated non-transparent payment and investment platform that traditional art is put in. So that's a great thing, but how can you imagine if an Andy Warhol, if the Warhol that sold for $12 million last week, it got stolen and then sold to somebody else and then sold to somebody else who now has it, and they were able to establish the chain of who bought it from whom and where it is now. And then the person who originally got it stolen from could say, "Well, that's great. So get the guy." No, like, wait a minute. What we found out where it went, and can we go over the first guy who bought stolen property? No, because there's no precedent for this. We didn't plan for anything.
No one knows what they can do. Yeah.
All we planned on here is how we can charge people money for these things.
He did give him the information, right? Like,
yes.
It's kind of like he gave him the money, so. He said, "Please give me the money." He said, "I know your mom. Yeah. Your mom wants the money, but like."
No, it's a good point.
I don't know. There's no laws that are.
A bank is not liable if you give money to somebody on the street or give them their PIN. They're not liable because they didn't. It wasn't fraudulent. There's a lot of questions.
It's still phishing, right?
Although,
and also,
the good news is the NFT. You made an excellent point, Andy, which is. Unlike, say, a stolen Andy Warhol, the chain of possession is public. Everybody knows who had it, who has it now.
Yeah. And the other component is that the idea that this is one of those rare NFTs or one of those alternative NFTs where you're not only getting the electrons, but you're also getting commercial rights to the thing. And now we have to figure out, okay, does that actually transfer with the theft, or did the contract stay with Seth Green, even though the item itself has been stolen from him? So could he go forward with this? And with the person who has it in his possession, who knows he's got stolen property, would they have the absolute guts to sue Seth Green for making a TV show out of a character whose property he stole as stolen property? Judges didn't go to law school 80 years ago and sit in the Supreme Court for 40 years to decide stuff like this. They want to design freedom and liberty and rights, and this is not what Justice Brandeis spent his time deliberating. I don't think this is high on their interest rate.
Do you own any NFTs, Nicholas?
Do I own any NFTs? I think I bought one as like an experiment just to do it, just to go through the process of doing it. But I'm not.
Is it a monkey that wears a halo?
Tell the truth.
I think it's one of those loot ones where it's just a text of like a sword, a bag of coins. Right. And it's just that text. But it cost me like $200. I did want to add that we did a story a few months ago at Consumer Reports on crypto wallets. And I only bring that up just to say, because, I don't know what this Seth Green, what the details are, but just to highlight that this stuff is still kind of hard to use, pretty unscrutable. And if you're like the average person out there, like I don't know that I feel bad for Seth Green, but like there's so much spam, there's so much phishing. This whole scene is so like so shady. It's just so user unfriendly. It's no wonder that we're 10 plus years into Bitcoin and it's still kind of this like experimental thing, where it's not a mainstream tech yet.
I have to say more and more I become kind of hostile to crypto and especially to NFTs, because it really just seems like mostly it's people getting suckered. Some people are making a lot of money, but if you're making a lot of money, it's because somebody else gave you a lot of money.
Yeah, this is like playing the stock market in 1918. This is like playing the stock market in 1918 before, okay, everything crashed, everybody's destitute. We're going to start to have some rules because trusting people to do the right thing and not overinflate things to justify their own share, that isn't working out for the world economy.
Yeah. Georgia, what did you want to know?
Do they own the name as well? Couldn't Seth just like kill off the character and have it like, resurrected as another animal wearing a halo?
Well, that's the other interesting point of that, because some NFTs are being created by the artists who are making the art. It's a way of kind of supporting the artist, and you're not, with a digital print, you can't say I own the one copy of it. It's digital. So maybe that makes sense in that context. But this, like a lot of them, like the original Zombies, like Kevin Rose's Owls, they contracted with some poor artist who drew 1,000 Bored Apes, got paid whatever he got paid, and that was that.
Yeah.
And now, really, all of the money, it has nothing to do with the person who designed it. So I kind of feel bad for the guy who did Fred Simeon, who drew it, because he's thinking, yeah, Fred Green's going to do like a national TV show based on my creation. I'm not going to see a penny of it. So this is really all kind of the aftermarket, not the artist. The artist is, work for hire in this.
Say that to also all the writers and artists who've been writing Marvel Comics for the past 20, 30 years,
that's
who got
true.
paid like $800 for a story that became the basis of a $1.8 billion movie.
Yeah, that's a really good point. They probably don't go to Marvel Cinematic Universe pictures.
Hey, guess what? Who's getting 2 tickets to the premiere? You are. No, absolutely.
I don't know.
Just sign this thing on the back of the ticket in order to use it that says that you will not actually sue us at any time for any reason.
Sometimes I feel like
Right,
I'm just a
you
boomer.
accept it.
They say, "Okay, boomer." Larry David on the Super Bowl, remember, did that ad where he said, "It's never going anywhere," and I guess I'm that guy. But I am very skeptical about this whole thing, and I no longer see a real value to any of it, including Bitcoin, by the way.
Well, again, that was just like NFTs when it was first put forward. The reasons for having cryptocurrency were so well founded. The idea of having a currency that is not tied down to any nationality or any actual bank. The ability, one of the use cases for it was relief organizations trying to get relief funds to people who are basically in parts of the nation where parts of the world where poverty is rampant, food is scarce. Where if you send actual relief checks in through the national banks, well, guess who owns the national bank? The same person who has been putting these people into poverty and putting these people into hunger. Whereas if you basically say we're going to create an economy inside the section that is based on this United Nations cryptocurrency, and what if you were in a nation where that is in a state of constant collapse, where you feel as though at any moment now your currency is your savings is going to be nationalized? That's all this. These are all reasons, and to say nothing of people in this world who don't have access to banking. I mean, we take that for granted. But even in the United States, there are people who are living and working and contributing to our economy who don't have access to banking, who would be able to make transfers from person to person without having to pay exorbitant fees through Wells Fargo or whatever. Yeah. So, but again, suddenly you turn this into this bro investor opportunity, and now you've basically ruined it. It's terrible.
That's a very good point. I hadn't really thought about that. Yeah. Well, it may be one of those things. This happens all the time in technology, where the early years are very weird and unpredictable, and there's nobody understand what's going on, and then at some point it settles down and regulations are conceived, and it starts to become more orderly. It's possible. At this point, I would not buy an NFT if I were you. Let's talk a little bit about the new California bill. This is the new thing. Of course, Texas started this by saying individuals could sue abortion providers or even somebody who drove somebody to get an abortion. A new California bill could allow parents to sue social media companies for up to $25,000 if their children become addicted to the platforms. Now, it's not a law yet, but in this day and age, I could easily see this becoming a law in California. I'm sure do you ever talk about internet addiction, Georgia? Or what do you think of that notion that people could get addicted to social media?
They are addicted to social media. I don't even have my teens, even they won't tell their parents this, but even my teens will say that they are 100% addicted and use way too much time on the internet. That's what it's made for, right? Like they try to get you hooked up to be able to, this is what makes you feel good, and your value is dependent upon how many people liked the latest thing that you did. So I think that it comes with a huge cost. So
should there be a law that lets people sue for addiction? Like, should I be able to sue Twitter? Or actually, it wouldn't be Twitter, it'd be Instagram, right? Or
Right.
Snapchat, that my kid just can't put the phone down.
Yeah. Or, even something like TikTok, like just even media that people are using. But I don't think that you should be able to, I don't think that you should sue them. I don't think that it's the same thing as being like government being able to, well, in like Canada, being able to sue tobacco because of the amount of Medicare costs that it costs the government.
That's different.
To be able to cover.
That makes sense.
It's a different thing. It's a much more direct line of kind of attack, and they already knew the cost to that versus social media. It's one of those things that I think that kids shouldn't be on it. Is like, you want to wait as long as possible to have your children on social media, because it does create the same kind of addiction as a gambling machine does. That on and off reward makes our brain just go wild. And it's really hard for people to get off of it. Like there are so many 70, 80-year-olds that are the same thing. Like once they're on, they can't get off again. Even politicians and people that we know and billionaires, they're on Twitter and they can't stop tweeting. And you're like, just put down Twitter, stop. Someone take away the phone. But
so is it
don't.
ultimately the fault of these companies that design these algorithms to be so sticky?
I think that yes, they hire people like me to be able to make their systems as you can
they're
say
doing
Snapchat
it on purpose.
streaks. Like they're doing it on purpose because you're all like, our amount of attention is finite and we can only be on one social platform at a time. And so because of that, they're trying to fight to make it as addictive and as salient and having people on there as much as possible, because that's really how they make money, being able to see what we do and what we click and what we don't click. It's not really about using the device, but it's about finding out where we go from what device, right? Like Facebook makes most of its money not from us being on Facebook, but on being able to track where we go and why we're going there.
So it's no different than Purdue Pharma selling OxyContin and encouraging physicians to overprescribe OxyContin, knowing people will get addicted. Is like Instagram and Snap and TikTok, are they the Purdue Pharmas of social?
I actually do believe so. Like, I don't think that I think that they come with some, like, a lot of good, and you can send out information and you have direct access to people, and it gives a lot of people a lot of power. So I don't think that it is just a negative, but just like, using OxyContin or something else, if you are in extreme pain, it can also be very beneficial. I don't think that it should just be, we can't just throw out the baby with the bathwater, but I think that us not knowing that it comes with a severe cost, and that like even people that work in these large companies, they will themselves say that they know that they are causing social damage as well as great benefits. But we can't just say that it's only good, and we can't just say that it's only bad. So I think that it should be, looked into. I think that it should be legislated. I think that if they're tracking us, we should know what they're tracking and why. Who are they sending all of this information to? How is it being used? How are we being manipulated? It's kind of the shadiness for me is more about us not knowing. There is no transparency. And if you take a look at their, try to read through all of the legalese of all of their privacy policies, it's really difficult to be able to navigate, even if you have a law degree.
And yet, you could also accuse Starbucks of foisting caffeine. Starbucks of foisting caffeine on us, Nicholas. Right? They are in a business where they know perfectly well they're making a somewhat addictive product. That's the beauty of it from their point of view.
Yeah, no, this is stuff we discuss internally. Like, let's say we're reviewing the new iPhone. We're are we, by giving the iPhone a good score when the camera's great, excellent, are we contributing to, just kids just endlessly scrolling through Instagram or just spending all day in Discord? Like, should we take that stuff into account when we evaluate, the Pixel 6 or whatever? I don't know, but it is stuff that we're thinking about. Like, to what degree? Didn't Tim Cook say a few months ago that he doesn't want to encourage like mindless scrolling on your phone? And just think about like how many people are just mindlessly scrolling. I mean,
but he still wants you to be on the phone.
Buy the phone.
He still wants you to have the phone. He just doesn't want you to buy because he doesn't make any money from the scrolling.
Don't be mindless. Yeah.
Yeah.
No, it's great that you. Actually, it's really great, Nicholas, that the Consumers Union thinks about that. I from time to time wonder if I'm culpable because I mean we talk about all the shiny new addictive objects, and we're always reviewing them and talking about them and ways to use them. And, my career as a tech journalist really has been, to some degree, to foster people's usage of these addictive devices.
Yeah, I struggle with that too because it's like.
Go ahead, Nicholas.
Oh, I was going to say it's like is it my role to say this iPhone is awesome, but don't use it because Facebook is bad, or don't use it because Instagram is addictive. I don't know what my actual role there is in that sort of transaction, but we're not ignoring it. We are thinking like, what role do we play here? Should we tweak? Should we not? Should we just leave it as is? I'm not announcing anything today, but like we're thinking about all these things that you see that you don't necessarily think of Consumer Reports like necessarily weighing in on. But we're thinking about it, I guess.
You made a good point, Georgia, because all of these things have some benefit. It's not that they're completely without merit. Even casino gambling is entertaining. Starbucks keeps me awake.
Yeah.
I mean, if you're in great pain,
it's
Oxy
that
is a boon.
knowledge, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. But it's that knowledge, right? Like, I think that like shows like this and like you're learning also knowledge about like that media comes with certain costs and how do you know when you're dealing with it? And I think that is what should be taught in schools. Like there's certain subjects like our school system, our education system hasn't changed much in like hundreds of years. Like the subjects that we're teaching, which are important, but like we need to learn about like becoming media savvy, about, how is media used to be able to manipulate us, how easily we are manipulated. What are the good and bad? How do you know if you're addicted? Like there's a lot of information that we need to be taught at a much younger age. And when people watch shows like this and read articles about media, they're learning about the good and the bad of that, which I think is really important because I don't think that most people know. And I think that when you're young, they don't really know how addictive that is, how it's actually changing the wiring of your brain. And that's like once you start working through addiction centers really quick at a very young age, they become really strong. And some people have addictive personalities where they're already inclined to be able to be addicted to that dopamine center, which makes us feel motivated and excited. It's all those bells and whistles that happen in our head when you win a jackpot or, open up some tasty treat on your video game and get the best card that you're supposed to have. So if we knew about that, I think that we would make better decisions.
I mean, I'm addicted to spaghetti. That doesn't mean it's Chef Boyardee's fault, right? I mean, humans are by nature addictive. We love stuff, and we sometimes love it to our detriment. Andy?
Yeah. Is it the same?
Go ahead, Georgia.
Oh, I was just going to say, is it the same though, right?
Well, it is. I mean, you clearly can see the side effects of me being addicted to spaghetti.
Yeah.
It hasn't been good.
But the landmark decision against the tobacco companies points the way towards every sort of law about addiction. It wasn't so much that they were selling an addictive substance. It was that they knew how addictive it was. They were intentionally adapting the product to make it more addictive, and they were actively denying and disproving that it was addictive to their customers. So that really put the responsibility right in their laps.
Do you think the social networks do the same thing?
I definitely think they know why. I think that why slot machines in 2022, based on digital technology, work much differently and much more efficiently than the ones built in 1953. They understand when to disrupt our rational centers. Obviously, Georgian will talk better about this than I can. But nonetheless, I'm concerned about laws like this. I'm not so concerned about this one. Rather, I wasn't as much as I was after I read the law itself, because it does appear to be, what it does is that it doesn't simply say we are going to punish you if you're a service and you meet some extremely vaguely defined way of mishandling your child customers and making them addicted to stuff. It basically puts some guideposts into what qualifies for this sort of relief. But most importantly, I think, is the section that basically says that, by the way, you get a complete get out of jail free card if you just do these two things. If you do quarterly audits of how your practices could be addicting children, and then if you whatever you find that seems to be addictive, if you remedy this within 30 days, again, you get a get out of jail free card. So I think that from my reading of this, he said, not being a lawyer, it does seem as though the thrust of this is not to open up the gates to all kinds of lawsuits, but to basically say, look, it's not enough for us to simply put into the law that you are required to do quarterly audits and remedy things within 30 days. We're going to put this rule in place as a way for you to get the escape clause from a whole bunch of hurt that you want to be involved
That is good. Yeah, that just pushes them to do some responsible reporting and accounting. And I think that's good. So yeah, now that I didn't read the law. Thank you for doing your homework. Now that you say that, I'm not so against it. I think that's not such a bad idea.
I think it could still be a little bit more specific, but the wording basically points out to addiction, including but not limited to, like, depression as diagnosed by a professional, self-harm, all kinds of other things that children are vulnerable to in a state of addiction through social media.
And there's no question about that happening, right? I mean, we hear about it all the time.
There needs to be some liability, I do think. But as long as you do it carefully and don't basically torch an entire platform, because in addition to causing harm to kids, social media in allowing very isolated kids who think that they're the only person who are like this, they're the only people who are suffering these problems, to find their tribe, to find their people out there who they can talk to when they don't feel as though they can talk to any of the adults that are in their lives. There's no numerical index to how much that has helped children over the past 10 or however many years we've had social media, and we don't want to disrupt that.
Right. Georgia, you would not let your kids use Facebook, Instagram, Snapchat, or TikTok, but you would let them strap on a visor and play virtual reality games all day.
And I wouldn't say that I won't let them use that social media as long as they use it responsibly and they understand what they're doing. And if I catch them that they're not using it responsibly, it's a different story. Like,
you're addicted to VR, though. You're addicted to VR. Let's admit it.
I love VR. It's not actually very addictive. VR is a little bit exhausting, right? You wear it for a while. You actually want to get out because you're tired. Your eyes are strained. It's heavy. I would love to be more addicted to VR. Unfortunately, it is. Like after 45 minutes to 2 hours, I'm done. Like I'm like, good. I need to take a break.
That's good.
So because of that, it has its own effect that you don't really have to worry to it. I think that, social media targeting kids is different than being able to be used by kids. I think that it's like the Camel cigarettes where they had this little cartoon character and they realized that, if you don't start smoking by the age of 18, you're probably never going to smoke. And so they were like, oh, let's make sure that we grab kids when they're young so they start smoking so we can make our money. And then the governments kind of went down on it and having cool packaging. It works so well for us. Like, we all think that we're not going to be able to get attracted to being able to use something that's flashy and snazzy looking and that all of our, people that we looked up to are using, but we are all very easily manipulated by these things.
It's funny.
I think that's what we need to look at.
Here in California, there's we've got a primary election coming up in a couple of days, and there's a big battle going on. You see ads all the time on TV saying, don't let these online gaming apps, I think they're going after DraftKings, FanDuel, and all that stuff. Don't let these addict our children and cause great harm in society, but it's being paid for by the Indian casinos in California. And every time I see it, I think, don't let them addict your kids. We want to do that. That's going to be our job.
They can't do that to our pigeons. Only we can do that to our pigeons.
There seems some hypocrisy there. It's a little strange. But on the other hand, who's responsible if you use something to excess? I mean, everything in our lives can be used to excess in some way or another. Ultimately, there has to be some, for adults, some personal responsibility, and for kids, some parental responsibility, or not, Georgia?
I think so. I think that it really is up to parents. I think it's also up to our education system as well. Like, I think that, we should be electing people as officials that will end up making our education system so that, it's going to be giving the best education that there is to our kids so that they end up learning about, media knowledge, about, what happens inside the brain and what doesn't, because it's really important. And I think that for some parents, it's an easy thing to say that it's parents' responsibility to watch their kids, but especially with the way that the economy is, there are many people that have to work one or two jobs to be able to support their family. And so they're spending more time at school than they are at home. And it's an easy thing to say that parents should be able to watch their kids all the time, but it's really hard for a lot of families, and especially right now. And so I think that we need to make sure that we are enforcing that an education system is going to be teaching the kids the lessons that they need to be able to survive and have all of those different skills and know the pitfalls that are coming forward, because we need to teach them really early. And I think that we really have let down a lot of kids about not learning about finance and not learning about what type of media and the way that advertising works and the way that fear makes us be able to give up our privacy and our rights so effortlessly.
It's almost, look, have always been surrounded by addictive stuff. We tried, in the earlier part of the 20th century to ban alcohol. That didn't work out so well.
Banning is such a horrible idea, though, in comparison to teaching people the effect. Like, I don't know about banning. Banning seems to do the opposite, right? Like, just saying no to something, like saying no to drugs, is a very ineffective method to be able to stop people from actually using drugs.
Yeah. And I think the 20th Amendment didn't really work in eliminating. There's a fountain downtown from the Women's Christian Temperance Union. It was put in around 1909. That says something like abstinence is the only solution to the drinking problem. It's etched in this. It's right next to one of our finer bars. And I think the idea is from the Women's Christian Temperance Union, here, have some water. Don't go in there. Have some water. And it's still there. I think it's a fabulous monument to a good and principled idea and an absolutely failed political process. We also have a brewery in San Francisco called the 21st Amendment Brewery, which is the repeal. All right, let's take a little break. We've got a great panel. It's so nice to see you, Georgia. Georgia Dow in her handmade T-shirt. It's so cute. It's like Dolly Parton in the coat of many colors, only it's hellfire. But it's, it's close. It's close.
I don't understand. I don't know if I want to understand.
Yeah, you can look it up while I'm doing the ad.
Okay.
Andy Nako is also here. Love to have Andy on, of course, every Tuesday. We're going to have a lot to talk about in a week. WWDC's coming up. We'll talk a little bit about that today.
Let me just tell you, Lou, anytime you want to compare me with Dolly Parton in any way, shape, or form, I would be flattered as hell. I can't imagine ever be offended by being compared with Dolly Parton. She is a saint. She is our Mr. Rogers.
Your sister Jolene Anatko probably would have something to say about that. Also, Nicholas De Leon, it's great to have you from Consumers Union. He's their senior electronics reporter, the Consumer Reports magazine, which I am proud to say I have been a member of Consumers Union, a subscriber, since I think 1980. So what is that? 42 years, a long time.
That's older than I am. Yeah, we appreciate your support. Thank you.
That's how old. I've got subscriptions older than you.
It's funny. We've got in the walls in the office, like all the magazines from issue 1, issue 2, and like all the it's
I'd love
it's almost like a little museum. The actual office.
The first
in Yonkers,
Consumers
New York,
Report would be very interesting. Yeah,
it's pretty.
Where
cool.
were they reviewing
I don't remember.
Hoover.
The funniest one I remember, there was an issue I believe it was the 1960s, where they looked at mixed nuts and like the laws regarding the percentage, what can be cashews, what can be peanuts. It was apparently a whole thing back in the day. But that's the funniest one I can recall.
Keeping us honest.
Yes.
Yes, since whenever. When was it? How old is it, I wonder? What's the first?
1936.
36.
Something.
All right, now I'm going to go on a quest. Somewhere, eBay will have it somewhere. I want to find the first Consumer Reports magazine. I think that'd be fascinating. Fascinating stuff. Our show today brought to you by Zapier. I am a happy Zapier user, have been for years. Zapier automates the boring stuff so you don't have to do it over and over again. Streamline your routine operations tasks that eat up your time. Things like lead management, employee onboarding, customer support. With Zapier, it makes it easy to connect all your apps, automate routine tasks, streamline your processes, freeing up your time to prioritize customer and client needs. The power of automation made possible for everyone. I use Zapier. Well, for instance, this whole show is produced with a Zapier script. Whenever I go to my newsreader or I bookmark something on Pinboard, here's my Zapier script that takes it from Pinboard, posts it on Twitter, then puts it in a Google Sheet, a document which then my producer, Jason, can take and paste into our rundowns. I have Zaps for all sorts of things. You will too. It's a great way to automate. Now, let me show you with Zapier the cool thing about workflows, because you can connect almost any app to almost any other app. It's really kind of amazing. They come with a bunch of sample Zaps, stuff that you might want to use, but it's very powerful. I don't think there's anybody who has more connections to more apps and tools and so forth than Zapier. You connect your apps, you can move data, you can copy data, you can process data. It is just an amazing tool. And what I love about them is they've been very good about helping people get started. So they've got videos, they've got samples. There are more than 4,000 different apps that you can connect with if-then statements. So if something happens on Instagram, I can automatically save it to Dropbox or move it to, and on and on and on and on and on. I mean, it's just no limit of what you can do with Zapier. I want you to give Zapier a try. Go to Zapier, Zapier.com/twit. If whether it's business automation, personal automation, no coding is required. Anybody can do it. 4,000 of the most popular apps businesses use every day. Google Sheets, that's what we use. QuickBooks, Facebook, Google Ads. That's really the only hard thing about doing this ad is thinking up how you might want to use it. So start to think about what would you do. For instance, a new client comes in, you make sure you add them to QuickBooks, you add them to your CRM. They have thousands of easy-to-use templates. You can get them started right away. On average, and I love this, is the other thing, I get an email from Zapier saying how much time I've saved every week. On average, the average user saves $10,000 in recovered time every year. 1.8 million people and businesses use Zapier to streamline their work, find some more time to do the stuff that you really care about. Let Zapier automate the boring stuff. See for yourself why teams at Airtable and Dropbox and HubSpot and Zendesk and thousands of other companies use Zapier every day to automate their businesses. It's the best tool ever. I almost want to just take you and say, look what you can do. But maybe the best thing to do is try it for free. Zapier.com/twit. Zapier. Zapier.com/twit. You'll find a way to use it. You'll find 100 ways to use it. For home automation, the sun goes down, my lights come up, things like that. It's just incredible. Zapier.com/twit. Let's see. Back to the show. There is, speaking of bad laws, both Texas and Florida have social media censorship laws. Florida has very famously exempted Disney until the governor of Florida decided, I don't like Disney. They're a woke company. And they took it out. They actually took them out of the law. The Ninth Circuit Court has, I'm happy to say, blocked the Florida law. Of course, the Fifth Circuit unblocked the Texas law. So it's not clear what the courts are going to do. The 11th Circuit came in response to a lawsuit brought by NetChoice and CCIA. These are the same people who sued in Texas. The court found that Florida's argument that social media giants are not entitled to First Amendment rights does not hold up. The court wrote, "Not in their wildest dreams could anyone in the founding generation have imagined Facebook, Twitter, YouTube, or TikTok." We were just talking about that. But whatever the challenges of applying the Constitution to ever-advancing technology, the basic principles of freedom of speech in the press, like the First Amendment's command, do not vary when a new and different medium for communication appears. We're going to have a little bit of a collision because the Fifth Circuit lifted the injunction on Texas's law. The Supreme Court has not issued a decision, but Justice Alioto for the upheld the Fifth Circuit. Or no, wait a minute, that hasn't happened yet. The Fifth Circuit lifted it. We haven't heard from Alioto yet. Alito. Alioto is the mayor of San Francisco. Sorry, Alito, former mayor. And I think it's Justice Clarence Thomas who is the justice for the 11th Circuit. So he might also be expected to weigh in if they appeal. Andy, you sound like you have something to say.
No, just that if we're looking for some good news in this, it's that the decision that basically said no, you can't do that was extremely well reasoned and extremely well explained, and the foundations were extremely carefully laid out.
Unlike, by the way, the Texas courts, the Fifth Circuit's courts,
exactly,
which seemed to confuse YouTube, didn't think YouTube was a website.
Yeah. And they did, and I don't know if they even really explained their decision. Basically, saying that it was okay for this to go forward. So basically, they didn't make it easy for this to resist a further injunction in the future. Again, not being a lawyer, this is there. I've never had so many people in my Rolodex who are like lawyers and like Washington wonks to advise me on how this stuff works than I have in the past 5 or 6 or 7 years. But it's not over yet, but it's very, very dangerous. I mean, God help anybody who lives in a state whose governor wants to be president in 2 years, because they're going to be doing some wacky stuff in your state. Yeah. And that's exactly what's happening in Florida.
Kind of nutty.
It was, I mean, there really is the opinions of the people that I was talking to about this was that the governor knew and the legislature knew damn well this has very, very little chance of standing up to any scrutiny whatsoever. And it was just basically there so that they can get that notch on their belt and they can campaign on it in the midterms and in a presidential election.
I think that's true of the Texas bill as well. It's really posturing. Yeah. It's about it really. Yeah. I mean, let's face it. It's really saying you can't ban Donald Trump from Twitter. Is really what this is all about. Yeah, I mean, there's stuff. There are laws very, very high on the pyramid that have always explicitly maintained and upheld the idea that you can't treat YouTube as a corporate entity, as somebody who's shouting stuff into the streets and has to be held responsible for the stuff that they shout in the street. That is so well established that you're gonna have to come up with a brand new trick in order to assault that in any way, shape, or form. I think that this is why oftentimes, like, as 5 out of 7 like really, really scary legislative tech stories that you see coming through, you can basically dismiss, because all you have to do is check paragraph 1, paragraph 2 to say, it's been proposed, but has it made out of a committee? Has it moved forward at all? There's so many of these nutty laws that senators and congresspeople, they just want to hear themselves talk. They just want to be able to put something in a newsletter or on a mailing card, and they know this isn't going to go forward. Sometimes, though, these things do go forward, and that's why they have to be publicized, they have to be talked about and combated, because this would be super, super dangerous. This is I was saying that the California law about suing companies for social addiction of kids was okay. When you look at the law, it doesn't look so bad. This law is just bad. Yeah. This is basically saying that every company that allows an individual citizen or entity to speak on the internet has to serve the needs of the state, whatever the state just deems those needs to be. And if it doesn't kowtow to those needs, that they can basically be shut down. This is not something that Amendment number 1 on a constitution is equipped to permit. The Texas law says the First Amendment should treat social media companies less like a newspaper and more like a railroad, a common carrier, which is a railroad or a bus or an airline or a transportation company that offers their services to the general public. The problem is, of course, you remember a few years ago, that was the argument for blocking net neutrality laws, which is that ISPs were not common carriers. So it's a very complicated landscape we live in, and I think it's more. I think you make the point, Andy, exactly right. It's more about political notches on the belt than it is about actual sensible legislation. We'll see. I mean, any of these could become a law at any time. Yeah, it's just unknown. There was a law I was kind of excited about. Senator A.B. Klobuchar's bill. She and Chuck Grassley pushing the American Innovation and Choice Online Act, which I interpreted as kind of a data portability act. A new version of that bill was released this week, which does only a couple of things. Really makes sure that the bill doesn't apply to telcos and on financial companies, who, of course, are big donors to the senator's campaign.
This is the thing that's always quite amazing, that it's a bipartisan issue. The idea of applying antitrust in a more thoughtful way towards large tech companies, and everybody wants to break up Google. Everybody wants to force Apple to allow side loading of apps. Rah rah rah! Absolutely, it's time to get these people down a notch. But when you say that's great, I'm so glad you're on our side on this, because there are communities where you're not allowed to have competition in selection of broadband providers or phone providers. So you definitely want to break up that monopoly.
Oh, no, not that one.
Exactly. Right.
They're among the most monopolistic of companies. Right. We don't want to touch them. Sometimes I despair. Let's see. What else? The DuckDuckGo, a little heat on DuckDuckGo, and I think probably rightly so. DuckDuckGo has promoted itself as a privacy-first search engine, but they have also released browsers, and it turns out that the DuckDuckGo browser on mobile, according to security researcher Zach Edwards, while it does block trackers from Google and Facebook, allows Microsoft trackers to continue running. Here's Zach's tweet. And then DuckDuckGo admits it, saying, yeah, well, that was part of our deal with Bing. DuckDuckGo CEO and founder Gabriel Weinberger confirmed their browser intentionally allows Microsoft trackers third-party sites due to a search syndication agreement with Redmond. But we're working hard Gabriel says, we've been continually pushing. But Microsoft says no, so what can we do?
Yeah. Well, you can tell people about it and still having a security researcher put a meter on your app to find out who it's talking to. That might help.
Yeah. It would have been nice
so
if they'd been a little, yeah, it is, because I like DuckDuckGo.
So disheartening.
Yeah.
I loved it. I was like, oh, I'm so happy. I use it. I supported it. And then to hear, like, it's when you find out, I think that, Andy, you're absolutely right. It's when you find out they didn't share this information up front, somewhere hidden in their privacy policy, somewhere where we could read about it. And then you're like, oh, because then, it's one of those things that once you trust something and you give something your trust, and then you find out that you shouldn't have, then you question everything else about it. And then people are like, oh, well, might as well just use Google because at least we know that they sell everything that you're going to.
At least they're honest about it. Yeah.
Well,
Weinberg's statement to Bleeping Computer basically said, well, but we still block the other guys. It's still better than most.
True.
Just be forthright. If you're going to say we're a privacy-forward company, then when you aren't doing it, you need to tell people. I think that's exactly right.
I just want to jump in. I know some folks who work at DuckDuckGo, and they feel like they're one of the good guys in this kind of space, which is not a great space anyway. But like, yeah, this feels like communications. It's like you can't. Oh, but it's Microsoft. Yeah, we're trying really hard. I don't know. They just come across kind of. It's kind of sad, I guess. So.
Yeah. You think it was because if they had said up front, we're going to block stuff, but because we use Bing, we can't block Bing and LinkedIn trackers. That's part of our deal with Microsoft. I could see why they may not have wanted to say that out loud, but you're going to get caught, Nicholas, right? You're going to.
Yeah. Well, we don't know what if Microsoft's. It's like a national security letter. You can't even acknowledge that this exists. Like, did Microsoft put like restrictions on what they could and couldn't say?
Oh, maybe.
We don't know.
Yeah.
But yeah, I do think that in this case, if they have just said it, even if they just buried it in like you said, in just a privacy policy somewhere, to have it come out this way with a security researcher who then puts you on blast, and then it looks like your tweeted statement is kind of like, well, actually, you kind of come across a little bit defensive, and it doesn't look great. Even if what you're saying is true, is they're like, hey, look, our hands are tied. Like, I get that. I'm an adult. You can tell me that. But they do come across a little defensive, and like I said, I know some folks there, and they are pushing hard in this space in terms of like user rights and privacy. So they're I think a force for good in the internet privacy conversation. But in this particular instance, yeah, they come across a little weird.
Yeah, it's so bad when you step on a rake like that.
I mean, yeah, stepping on a rake is a good description. But Nicholas, I think you're right. We should at least give them credit for doing something. It's better than nothing. And I hope they learn the lesson. I think they are now saying something about it. They updated their description of the browser in the App Store and the Google Play Store. It originally said Tracker Radar automatically blocks hidden third-party trackers. The new description, well, it doesn't say except for Microsoft. It now says automatically blocks most hidden third-party tracking scripts. See notes and link below for more information. So they're kind of admitting it. It's still in the fine print. Give them some credit for doing something, I guess.
Absolutely.
I mean, Firefox blocks everything, including Microsoft stuff, right? I use Firefox. I turn on all the blockers. I put on other stuff, additional stuff. I am more concerned. You know, I used to, and I've mentioned this before, be a little more sanguine. I don't mind if my information is shared with advertisers. That seems not so dangerous. But then we're starting to learn that government is using this in states like Texas, where I could be sued, if I in any way support abortion. And now my location data is being sold to anybody. It makes you a little bit more aware.
Yeah. You're particularly. We should be particularly concerned about geofence warrants that have always been a huge problem. The ability for law enforcement to simply say, "Hi Google, we want just every single device identity of every phone that was within this vicinity, within this radius, on this date, and this time."
That's such a fishing expedition.
Yeah, exactly. And unfortunately, this is something that. Google and Apple are big enough to fight these things and basically say you're going to have to we're not just going to simply rubber stamp this thing. You're going to have to absolutely get everything correct. But once the right files have been filed, they have to hand this stuff over. Which is why I think there was last week 30 Democratic Congress people basically signed a letter saying Google, you need to do something to protect. This abuse of geofence, particularly to protect people who are seeking abortions or at least pursuing abortion.
Yeah,
because that's how it's. They're going to be DAs that are, again, they want to be elected to that next level up, that are going to be seeking and encouraging abuse. I mean, persecution and abuse of anybody they think might be even considering such an action, and it's just going to be horrifying.
Yeah.
I know a lot of people that are getting rid of their period trackers for the exact same reason.
Yep. Exactly right. I think it's Google and Apple are starting to ask for better privacy protection for things like that.
Yeah.
But we know that that's at least several period trackers are selling information on to third-party data brokers.
Yeah.
It's terrible. Oklahoma is considering a law that's the most ridiculous of them all, that basically says that, oh, by the way, life begins at conception. And that, I mean, I don't understand how women can remain free in a state that decides that, no, I'm sorry, I'm going to get off of a tangent.
The problem with that is that then contraception becomes an issue, because almost all contraception will stop the egg from being able to be implanted in the uterus, just like the pill, and IUDs. And so it makes that a contraception itself, besides condoms, could also become illegal. And so your own right to, being able to have any type of contraception besides using a condom also can become an issue.
Yeah.
I just wanted to jump in and said that Consumer Reports, not me, I was not involved in this story, but we published a story a few days ago about period tracking apps, privacy, the whole 9 yards, and their privacy concerns and what's good, what's bad, and what these apps are actually looking at, what data they're collecting, the whole 9 yards. So if you just Google Consumer Reports period tracking apps, it's, again, I had nothing to do with the story. It was written by a colleague called Catherine Roberts. Published May 25th.
This is an old one. So Donna Rosado published a piece 2 years ago. So good on you, Consumer Reports, raising this issue 2 years ago. And now there's
but we just published a much
update.
more in-depth one about a week ago. Again, I was not involved. I was writing about office chairs last week. But
all right, it's okay.
Concern.
That's important too.
It is kind of funny in the context of what we look at. But for sure, this is an important issue, and we had some folks smarter than me on this issue take a look at these apps. So.
Yeah, Catherine, let's say Catherine,
yes,
looked at 4 different period tracker apps whose names include Drip. I'm not sure I'd want to use that one. I'm just saying. Yuki, I don't know, Lady Cycle, and Periodical. I'm thinking men are naming these. I don't know. That's just, I don't know. I could be wrong.
The Drip one makes me laugh. I don't know. That's just kind of funny. That's just kind of funny. I don't know.
Don't know. Anyway,
I wouldn't click it. I don't know. No one's gonna touch your app. You don't have to worry about someone clicking that by mistake.
It's just yours. No one's gonna use it by mistake. Yeah. The article says we chose these apps because they were recommended by the privacy community, and so they compared them with 4 other apps that are much more popular, like Flow, which I think we all are familiar with. Flow got in trouble, as I remember, right, for selling information on period calendar, period tracker, and fertility friend. Ah, yes.
Sure.
Anyway, they do recommend Drip, Yuki, and Periodical, which all store local data and don't allow third-party tracking. Although these days...
But what happens if a government official, if it becomes law, and
they could be
they ask
subpoenaed
for it, it still becomes a problem if it becomes a law. So...
I think the ones that your data stays on your phone that don't go to the company, those are the ones to look at. Yeah. And this, I'm glad to say, this article is not just subscribers only. Anybody can read this article, so that's nice. Thank you, Consumer Union, for doing that. We're going to take a little break, and we will be back with more in just a bit. Our great panel: Georgia Dow, Nicholas De Leon, and Andy Inako, dear friend. Actually, Andy, I want to talk a little bit about Apple. There's some good and there's some bad in the Apple world. I went into Lisa's office a couple of days ago, and she's listening to Deirdre O'Brien, HR person for Apple, give a speech to Apple employees about why the union, they just won't care about you as much as we do. We'll talk about that in just a little bit. Lisa,
the core is mother, the core is father.
I want to give credit to Lisa, who's the CEO and, of course, runs the company, and probably would be, if anybody were going to be giving that speech at Twitter, it would be her. She was incensed. She was like, that's ridiculous. So go ahead and unionize, John. How many, if there's only one employee, do half of you have to vote yes and the other half it's okay? I don't know how that works. Our show today brought to you by UserWay. I am a big fan of userway.org. It's the world's #1 accessibility solution. We use it on our website. If you go to twit.tv and you go down to the bottom, you will see the UserWay icon, the Vitruvian man with his arms or her arms straight out. You click that and you'll see all sorts of things you can do to make our website more accessible. UserWay's incredible AI-powered solution tirelessly enforces the hundreds of WCAG guidelines. That's the Web Content Accessibility Guidelines. In a matter of seconds, UserWay's AI can achieve more than an entire team of developers could do in months. In fact, if once you learn that you have a requirement, because all websites are public entities, so you have a requirement under the ADA in the United States, and in other countries, they have laws, similar laws, to make your site accessible, then you may, as I did, go, oh no, what does this mean? Is this going to be expensive? It's overwhelming. Once you find UserWay, you can breathe a sigh of relief. UserWay solutions make it simple, easy, cost-effective. In fact, you can go right now to userway.org/twit and use their free scanning tool. See if your website is already ADA compliant. Even if it is, I really love this because ours was pretty good. I'm proud of our engineers. But adding this little button at the bottom, it makes such a difference. You can change the font to a dyslexic-friendly font, and you can change the colors and the contrast to make it easier for people with vision issues or color blindness to see what you're doing. It's just fantastic. And if you have an enterprise-level website, huge website, thousands of pages, UserWay even has a managed solution. Their team can handle everything for you. That's what the big boys do. UserWay's AI and machine learning solutions power accessibility for more than 1 million websites, including Coca-Cola, Disney, eBay, FedEx, many leading brands. And these usability tools, these accessibility tools, are now available to small and medium businesses too. But of course, they can scale with you as you grow. In fact, UserWay is the leading accessibility solution in the market today. 61% market share. It's the biggest in the world. Motley Fool, good example. Big site. They had 1,911 pages on their website, 20 million page views a month. They had done the right thing, as many of us do. You structured it for accessibility, but they spent a lot of time keeping the site updated because you got new pages all the time, and the standards are changing all the time. So Motley Fool went to UserWay. They added an extra layer of accessibility to make sure their browsing experience was accessible to everybody. It's the right thing to do. UserWay automatically fixes violations at the code level. They auto-generate image alt tags, writing the descriptions for you using their image recognition. You can add to them, you can modify it, but you got a great start right out of the box. They can fix those complex nav menus that stymie all users. Everybody has trouble with them. They ensure all pop-ups are accessible, fix vague link violations, fix broken links, make sure your site uses accessible colors but staying true to your brand. And you'll get a detailed report of all the violations fixed on your website. It works anywhere. It's a single line of JavaScript. That's all we had to add to our website. There are plugins for WordPress, Shopify, Wix, Sitecore, SharePoint. Let UserWay help your business meet its compliance goals, improve the experience for your users. Just to listen to what Susan Bennett, the voice of Siri, has to say about UserWay.
Hi, I'm Susan Bennett, the original voice of Siri. You won't hear me say something like this too often. I'm sorry, I don't understand what you're looking for. But every day, that's what the internet is like for millions of people with disabilities. UserWay fixes all of that with just one line of code.
UserWay, one line of code can make any website fully accessible and ADA compliant. With UserWay, everyone who visits your site can browse seamlessly and customize it to fit their needs. This is the right thing to do. It's also a great way to showcase your commitment to millions of people with disabilities. 60 million people who otherwise might not use your business or service. Go to userway.org/twit. Get 30% off UserWay's AI-powered accessibility solution. UserWay, making the internet accessible for everyone. Really great guys, doing a good job here. Userway.org/twit. Userway.org/twit. Thank you, UserWay, for your support. Deidre O'Brien has I wonder, she might be thinking, I wish I didn't have to do this. Yes. Or maybe she's digging it. Watching companies like Starbucks, Amazon fight unions and still get unionized, it's sending a shiver down the spine of Apple, I'm thinking. They don't want to be unionized. They've actually hired a well-known anti-union law firm to come in to support them, to help them in preventing this. There are already dates and union drives at 3 of Apple's retail stores, New York, Maryland, and Georgia. Maryland and Georgia have set dates to hold elections. June 2nd, workers in the Cumberland Mall Apple store will vote. Apple's Towson Center store in Maryland do that on June 15th. So a video has been sent, and this is what companies do. They have mandatory meetings, not illegal. All the employees come in kind of like an all hands in the store, and they play this video from Deidre O'Brien, in which she says, Apple moves incredibly fast. It's one thing I love about our work in retail. It means we need to be able to move fast too. And I worry because the union will bring its own legally mandated rules that will determine how we work through issues that could make it harder for us to act swiftly to address the things you raise. I'm committed to and proud of our ability to act fast and support our teams to support you, but I don't know if we could have moved as quickly under a collective bargaining agreement. It could limit our ability to make widespread changes to improve your experience. And I think that's what's at stake here. Apple also put their money where their mouth is, raising the minimum wage from $20 to $22 an hour. So it's pretty good pay.
Yeah. Gosh, I guess they were planning to do that all.
Yeah.
Yeah, but this is why it's important that employees at least try to unionize, because guess what? It turns out that Apple could afford to give everybody a minimum $2 raise all along. But I guess they were planning to do that anyway, and just serendipitously, this was since I've got your ear anyway and telling you not to join a union. This is exactly. It was the pressure that was put upon them, and oddly enough, it's this kind of response that kind of represents why unions are very, very important, because otherwise a corporation can basically take a paternal attitude towards their workers, saying,
we know what's best.
Children,
we know what's best.
We don't want you to do something foolish that'll just ruin your life. We're looking out for you. We like the system where you ask us for things, and based on our own whims, we either say no or we say we think about it. And this is. I don't blame Apple for doing this. They are, again, a $2 trillion company that's whenever I say that a lot, but only because a lot of people have this idea of 2 hippies in a garage who just want to change the world, and that was actually, there was just one of those people were actual hippies, as we find out. But a $2 trillion company is probably always going to react to unionization of their hourly wage employees with trying to slap that down as hard as they can without actually hiring Pinkerton men to storm each store. So as you say, this week, I think on the 2nd, the Maryland store is voting, and then on the middle of June is when the Georgia store is voting. They have to file with the NLRB, so you can actually track that sort of stuff and see what's going on. I mean, but remember that this was the same company that basically was telling all their employees, by the way, after you clock out, you're going to have to hang around for a half hour while our store security examines your backpack and examines your bag to make sure you're not shoplifting from us. And by the way, you're not being paid for that for the time you're waiting for that security sweep to come over. Again, you need to have you need to be able to return the fire against your employers, or else you have absolutely no ability to resist when they do stupid things.
Georgia, you wanted to say something?
It's one of these things where, these are huge companies that you really can't go against. But when people unionize, you become this huge company that's able to deal with it. And let's just say it, like $22 an hour doesn't even hit inflation. That would be $25 an hour plus. And so Apple knows that if there's unfortunately, the US is so far behind with leave, sick days, maternity, paternity sets, being able to take days off, being able to have your own legal representative to be able to deal with these companies. HR works for the company. They don't work for you. So you have no recourse. And they, especially huge companies that make all of these profits and want to keep their shareholders happy, they don't want people to be able to have the power to unionize. And it seems ridiculous that anyone would not say yes to this. And companies try to say, oh, they're going to take your money. And you can even hear by Apple's approaches that we'll be faster. They don't say that this will be better for you, but they really say that, oh, we'll be faster. Yeah, it'll be definitely quicker for them to be able to say no to everything that you ask and to not have to raise things. But it's not going to be better for you. And yeah, it takes more time. If you get a legal representative every time you get to go see management, they're going to be much more careful because HR works for the company to make sure that the company is protected. Their legal team is making sure that the company is protected. You don't have any protections at all, and the laws and regulations that are in state are just so very archaic. It's really sad to see, out of all developed nations, to see where the U.S. right now is in being able to protect just the regular middle class worker. And the protections are just so very sad, like that people, can't even spend time with, their newborn baby or premature. Like it's ridiculous. Whereas most parts of the world that are developed countries have a year plus, 6 months to, in most places have a year to 2 years plus that you can stay home with your baby, which companies are able to swallow and governments are being able to protect. So I really hope that they end up unionizing. And I hope that most people that are working there are going to be able to fight for their own rights so that people can eat and stay home and be able to take care of yourself. Because let's just say it, the companies are not going to be there to be able to take care of you if you're sick. They don't care. You're not, any company that says that you are family, that just says that we are going to be abusing you.
Yeah, that's a good point.
And a very quick statement. This isn't a vague sort of notion. Being a member of the union in the United States, if you're a member of the union, you have real and authoritative protections if you decide to take action against your employer. If a store decided to, if they're unionized and they went by the numbers and staged a walkout, Apple cannot just simply say, "Great, you're all fired. We're going to be moving new people in there. Have fun wherever you're going to go." No, there's procedures that have to be formed. This dispute now forms under the oversight of the National Labor Relations Board that actually has a lot of authority and a lot of power to inflict a lot of pain. So maybe Apple will want to make people happy and address their concerns in a very meaningful way before everybody walks out on the day after Thanksgiving.
We should also point out that Apple has moved every job they possibly could move to low-paying countries like China, but they can't do that with retail. You have to be in the U.S. to work in a retail store. So it's just like Amazon, Starbucks. These are people who have to work in the U.S., and so Apple's trying to be as cheap as they can with these people. And any job that they could move overseas, they did. And they didn't move it to high-paying, Canada. They moved it to China and Vietnam and other places where they pay a lot less. I think I'm a little disappointed. I mean, I think Apple kind of plays very much on this notion that they are, altruistic and I don't know if hippies is the right word, but, people focused. But they went out and hired anti-union lawyers from Littler Mendelsohn, who are currently working at Starbucks and have worked in the past for McDonald's to prevent unionization. They're a company. And it's okay to unionize. It's okay.
Didn't they also, Leo, try to make sure that all of the different companies like them and Google and Microsoft, that they all kind of had this insider thought of how much they were going to pay different employers so that they couldn't end up going to other companies to be able to get more. So they're not they didn't reach becoming $1 trillion company
got in trouble for that.
By being altruistic and kind to their workers and wanting to pay people the most that they can
Steve Jobs had an agreement with Google and others to not poach employees, which is a violation of antitrust law.
And to salary cap.
Yeah, they got caught. Right. And I don't know what happened, but they got caught. Did they get fined? Probably not. They get a slap on the wrist? Probably.
I just wanted to jump in and say I was at Vice Media from 2015 to 2017 when we unionized.
That's right. You were one of the early ones to do that.
Yes. I remember my first day at work was August 2015. So I was day one. Day two, my managing editor asked if I was interested in joining a union. I was like, I've literally never thought about that, but sure, why not? It was kind of interesting, and I don't know how many folks know how this process works, but we had to meet after work off-site in like the back of like a pizzeria in Brooklyn somewhere. And we all sat in a circle. And we all kind of like, so do we want to join a union? Do we want to do this? I had a serious discussion about it. And it was like, I believe 99% of people said, yeah, let's do it. And so it was just kind of scary. Like, oh, we're signing union cards. This is such a weird, and like this country just like telegraphs like, oh, a union, what is scary, what a hostile thing to do to your employer. And it was like, whatever. But we signed the cards, and about negotiations of the first contract did take about a year, as I recall. But after the contract was ratified, like we immediately all got raises, we all got back pay, we all got better leave. Like there was no negative outcome for any of the people who unionized. I don't recall Vice giving us those scary videos of like, oh, this will slow down the company. I don't recall them doing that. To be fair, I wasn't part of the negotiating committee, so I wasn't necessarily privy to all the management stuff. But just as a rank and file employee, there was literally zero downside to unionizing. So yeah, it's funny. I see those comments on like Reddit. People talk, oh, unions, they're this, they're that. They, there's like weird opinions in the U.S. about like what unions do, and like they're good for workers. I don't know why that is controversial to say.
Nicholas, do you think that it's like the company that sends out those messages?
Political.
They like.
No. In the U.S., it's political. It's totally, it's communism. It's political. Yeah. And
I still wonder if the lobbyists for these large companies are just sending out from the troll farms to because all of the workers benefit. I I don't see how this could even be like Republican or Democrat because
you don't understand, Georgia. No? Okay. You got to understand the
I'm
Americans.
Canadian. I'm sorry.
You're Canadian.
I'm sorry.
One of the keys to the you got to understand it if you want to understand America. One of the keys to the American psyche is the Horatio Alger story. You could pull yourself up by your bootstraps with enough hard work and gumption. You could be the boss. And so there's that same feeling that I could be that billionaire. I could be that CEO. So I'm not going to make any waves for them because what I'm going to do is pull myself up and become that person. And so it's part of the mythology. And so we actually revere these companies, these bosses, these billionaires, like they're somehow, special gods that we could someday aspire to be. And we don't want to do anything. We don't want to tax them. We don't want to give them any trouble. It's okay. And I think that's starting to crack, but it's for a long time. It's been part of our mythology. And I think it's unique to America, that idea that anybody can make it here. And as a result, I don't want to pay taxes when I do. So I better make sure it's okay right now for the billionaires.
Yeah.
It's so much easier to make it there and pull it yourself up by your bootstraps when you can afford bootstraps.
Yeah. First, you need bootstraps. I'm a member of the American Federation of Television and Radio Artists. I have been most of my life. I remember doing back in the 80s voting at a radio station to bring in the union. I've been a member ever since. It costs you money. You pay union dues, but you also get health benefits. You also get the most important thing is collective bargaining. Just as you said, Georgia, you're bargaining as a unit, as a group of people instead of an individual against a big company. They got lawyers. They got all sorts of people, and it's just you saying, "Can I have a raise, please?" It's much better to bargain collectively. I think 13% more pay for union represented workers in the U.S. than non-union, right there.
Yeah. No, I gotta cite Studs Terkel here, who had so many.
Studs Terkel.
He wrote this wonderful book on working, and he has it's a group put together a video compilation of this story that he used to tell a lot during his speaking appearances about waiting for the bus in Chicago, and same people like every single day, someone in a Brooks Brothers suit, and he finally like, oh, Labor Day's coming up, and he starts talking about unions, and the guy in the Brooks Brothers suit's like, oh, I hate unions, and he said, okay, did you work 18 hours today, or did you work 8 hours? 8 hours.
Right.
Did you work on Saturday and Sunday, or did you have the weekend off? Well, I had the weekend off. Okay, did you start working at 8 or 18? Like at 18, it's like, okay, guess what? Let me tell you about the Haymarket affair in Chicago 100 years ago, where 4 labor organizers were hanged for trying to form a union because they and your other people who were with your great-great-grandparents fought for your rights. That's why you're going home at 5 o'clock. That's why you've got the weekend off. That's why you got to go to school. So don't shade labor unions, because we forget all the victories that they won through. Again, I'm not joking about Pinkerton, man. Companies would just simply hire people with guns to simply go in and shoot at people who are protesting, people who are blocking the gates, and with the perfect permission and cadence of the law enforcement in the community. So this is why I'm very, very much pro-union. And although I'm sure that there are stories about how a union was interfering with progress in some way, shape, or form. Nothing is ever perfect. If without unions, a worker stands alone and has no power against a huge force that has absolutely no interest in giving them anything other than the bare minimum that they're legally required to give them.
Ask your grandpa about the Battle of the River Rouge, where the Pinkertons threw Walter Reuther, the founder of the AFL-CIO, off the bridge. It was quite literally a battle in 1937 because Ford workers wanted to unionize, and the United Auto Workers were in there to do it, and the Ford brought in the Pinkertons to fight them, literally fight them off. All right. Boy, we sound like a bunch of commies here. Let me move on. There's one other. It was May Day recently. Yeah.
It's just socialism. It's not like most developed countries are social democracies.
Don't say socialism in the United States. You're going to get burned.
But you have so many social. But you have so many.
No, we
social
only have
situations.
socialism for the rich here. Get it straight.
But you have mail, and you have a fire department, and you have police department, and you have like schools. These are all social cons and social security. It's even in the name, which I think that most people like. Oh no! Am I saying as a Canadian? I can. No.
It's a lot harder. It's a lot harder to fight against people who are saying we believe fundamentally that human beings should be treated like human beings, no matter how much money or power they have. And so, could we call you socialist instead? Like, we'd rather you didn't. Well, sorry, we already printed out the bumper stickers.
Yep. Yeah, it's funny how they've managed to demonize any idea like that. So I am also going to question Apple's commitment to their self-repair program. And this comes from personal experience. Well, we thought it'd be fun for Micah Sargent. He has an iPhone 12 to fix his own battery. So Micah went to the Apple site, ordered 79 pounds of repair equipment in these 2 Pelican cases. Apple shipped them out promptly. They're going to charge us a small amount to rent them. But what they neglected to ship was the battery. Apparently, this 1.1 ounce battery was shipped by separate cover from different places.
Oh, right.
Didn't arrive at first. We called Apple. They said, well, no, there's nothing we can do. Well, wait a minute, because you only have 7 days to return these cases. 7 days have come, and we don't have the battery. Sorry, you still have to return the 76 pounds worth of gear, and you'll get your money back on your credit card. I think, fortunately, the battery did arrive at the last minute, and Micah was able to get it. But I really question Apple's commitment. I mean, I think some of this is really about making you nuts. This is the big battery press you have to get, and there's a heating thing that you put the phone in to loosen the glue. Look at the size of this.
Yeah. Well, they really should have figured out that they can't ship lithium batteries by air. It has to go by ground, so it's not going to arrive at the same time as the cases.
Right. I guess that's what happened. Yeah.
And when you compare it to what Samsung and Google do with their phones with iFixit, it's like, no, we yes, it would be great if you had this really impressive like heating element pad vice device, but we actually think if you just chuck this thing in the microwave and warm it up and put it on top, it'll actually get the job done, and you can actually own it. I will say though that it's I'm not joking when I say it's better than nothing, because for a lot of people, they just don't have access to an Apple store. It's like a 3 or 4 or 5 hour drive away.
Right.
So it's a benefit. It's definitely a benefit for those people. I wonder if the momentum or the requirement to answer this question caught them flat-footed, and this was the best they could put together, was just simply say, okay, we can rent out our actual repair tools to make sure this is done carefully and correctly, and maybe next year they will it'll take them a year to put together a program so that you can actually get stuff through iFixit that are just cheap, like $8 tools that can be mailed in a simple box. But yeah, this doesn't make Apple look good.
I did replace my own battery with iFixit tools on the 4XL, Google Pixel phone. Yeah. But Apple really wants you to use this stuff.
This is like paying a bill in pennies. It's like, okay, you gave us what we asked for, but we think you're being kind of a snip about it.
Yeah. It costs roughly the same. That's the other thing. If you add it all up, as going to an Apple store and getting them to do it. So with all this trouble, you're not saving any money. But you're right. If you didn't have access to an Apple store, you didn't want to send it into Apple, I guess you could do this. I think
Micah should have been wearing a hazmat suit.
I know.
That would have been the perfect.
Micah's conclusion was, you can do it, but you probably shouldn't. It's probably something. Here comes the battery the next day. It finally came. Burke, run it down the hall. Yeah, and I think you're right, Andy. I didn't even think of this. It's because it's lithium ion. And so it has to be, but meanwhile, Micah's bringing he has to ship those back because the deadline lapsed. So I don't know. Did he get to do it or not, John? I don't know. Never did get to do it.
How big is the back seat in that car? Maybe he get a friend fix it while he's on his way back to FedEx.
Oh, lordy. Anyway, it's a good video.
The airbag suspension in this new Honda Accord is so smooth, I can replace this cracked phone screen while I go over this unpaved road.
It's the videos on the YouTube Twit channel, youtube.com/twit. iPhone self-repair. We tried it. You shouldn't. Look what I got. I'm so excited. This did come on time. This is my new coffee from Trade. Do you love coffee? Who doesn't love coffee? Would you love to try coffee from some of the best craft roasters in the country? There's a coffee renaissance going on in the United States, and there are small roasters all over the country doing amazing stuff. Trade brings you coffee from these craft roasters, and it's completely fresh. Oh, it's so good. They're independent businesses from all over big cities and small towns. Let's see what I got. This is from Tips Up Tahoe, French roast. Yeah, we love our dark stuff. This is a French roast from a little Tahoe roaster. Roasting at 6,000 feet in the Sierra Nevada allows us unique environmental advantages to maximize sweetness. Oh, I can't wait to try it. Trade Coffee's connecting you with small craft roasters to bring you absolutely fresh coffee. It's really cool. These are really great coffees. Now, it starts with the quiz, and I highly recommend you do this at drinktrade.com/twit. They'll ask you a couple of questions about what you like. Not just about what you like in coffee, but what you like in general. And then they'll make some recommendations, a personalized list of varieties delivered fresh to you as often as you want, no more than you need. Although it's always nice to have a freshly roasted pound of coffee just waiting for you. We get it as beans because we like to grind it, but you can also get it if you want ground ahead of time. Freshly roasted, 60 of the country's best craft roasters. And these are, by the way, all small businesses who sustainably source their coffee. They pay farmers fair prices. The best beans, they're absolutely fresh. And it's going to be beans that match your particular tastes. Trade has delivered over 5 million bags of fresh coffee, 750,000 positive reviews. New subscribers, you get a total of $30 off your first order and free shipping. So go to drinktrade.com/twit. That's more than 40 cups of coffee for free. Take the quiz, drinktrade.com/twit. Let Trade find a coffee you'll love. And I promise you, these are amazing coffees. And the stories are just as fun and just as interesting. $30 off. Don't forget, Father's Day is coming up. This would be a great gift for the dad in your life who loves coffee, a subscription to Trade. I want to open this and drink it. Drinktrade.com/twit. This smells really good. Drink Coffee Do Stuff is a specialty coffee company built with the belief that extraordinary coffee leads to extraordinary life. Oh, okay. That's cool. So all of the coffees are sourced from mountains and roasted at high altitude. Tips Up Tahoe French Roast. Tastes like bittersweet chocolate, allspice, bold and strong. So the company is Drink Coffee Do Stuff. That's a really good name for a coffee place. It's fun. Every one I get of these, it's somewhere different, somewhere fun, all over the world. I'll save this for tonight. Thank you, Trade. Drinktrade.com/twit. I thank them so much for their support of This Week in Tech. Now some good stuff about Apple, because we've been mean. I've been mean to Apple. I think you're going to be pretty excited, Georgia Dow, about Apple's VR headset. Are you looking forward to that?
I'm looking forward to it, except for the price. Holy Jesus, I'll buy 4 wheels instead of this.
Yeah, you practically could get a car. What are they saying? Now, this is all rumor, but it's from Mark Gurman, who's pretty reliable. $3,000, is that what they said?
Yeah, it's around $3,000, which, I'll still get it, but it's really pricey.
There is, and it's going to be, I think this is the developer edition. Again, we won't know. There's even some debate about whether we're going to hear about it a week from tomorrow, because that's Apple's WWDC keynote, is June 6th. And I just saw, I think it was Gurman saying, probably MacBook Airs in color based on the M2 chip, but maybe not anything about VR, AR. But I think they have to at their developers conference, right?
I would hope that they will show something. That's all. Just give me a little taste. I don't care if it's AR. It doesn't have to be VR, because they'll probably roll out AR beforehand. But I'd like to see what they, feel like they can come up with. It's still probably a little while away, but I think that would be really neat.
But you need to get developers to kind of line up and start thinking about it, right?
I would love that. I'm not so sure. I don't know, Andy, if you're so sure. I'm not so sure that we're going to see it. I really hope so, but I'm not holding out my hope for it. Andy?
Yeah. I don't think so. I think this is going to follow the same path as the Apple Watch, as the iPad, as the iPhone, where there's going to be a point at which they have to file a lot of really, really explicit paperwork with the FCC and others and explain here's exactly what it looks like, here's exactly what hardware is inside here, or in terms of the radios. And so there's going to be a launch event where they're going to show it, but it's not going to be available for months after that. And that's going to be because this is it's going to go public in January through government filings anyway, so you may as well give people the full demo. And then if you announce it in January and launch it make it actually available in June, you get to see developers, now that if this thing is completely public, you get to see selective developers with early hardware and early development tools, so that when you actually do start making pre-orders available, there's actually live demos of actual functional, practical things that Apple didn't have to do in-house. So I'd be really, really surprised if Apple showed off anything that was explicitly pointing to the AR or VR headset at WWDC. I would be more inclined to think that there's gonna be a lot of beard stroking. You think people like examine minutely what the invites to Apple events look like, say, ooh, there's like sort of a ripple in that section of the Apple logo. I think it's because the new iPhone is actually going to be not just water resistant, but fully waterproof. I think that people are going to look at, wait a minute, there's a new 3D object that they're adding to this established API, and there's this new course track about how to gain telemetry from live cameras that is not that they're using existing iPhones and iPads as examples for capturing this data and creating AR objects out of it. But this could be very, very well applied to an upcoming AR headset, so that they will be laying the groundwork, but without actually saying that they're laying the groundwork for this. I really do feel as though I don't see a reason why they would even announce anything this year if they're not going to launch anything this year. And I don't think they're going to launch anything this year. I do think it's going to be like, again, January-ish announcement, like mid to late winter announcement, late spring, early summer pre-orders, and actual like full bells and whistles demo.
It kind of makes sense because there's also this big issue of China shutting down due to COVID restrictions. And, I wonder if they'll even be able to get laptops. The laptops they have now are already pushed out 2, 3, 4 months. It's getting harder and harder to get stuff.
But Apple's really good at basically, bulldogging any other competitor, saying, "Oh, guess what? Oh, you wanted to be able to buy 8K internal displays. We bought all of the manufacturing capability for 8K goggle-mounted displays for the next 5 years. Good luck with that."
Yeah. Well, it'd be interesting.
But you're right. It's going to affect things.
Definitely add this to your bingo card if you're keeping track of all this, and we will do our live coverage as usual. It's on Monday, 10 a.m. Pacific, 1 p.m. Eastern, a week from tomorrow, June 6th for Apple's WWDC. And we'll all be, we all want big announcements. What are you giggling at?
No, I'm just very, very glad that I don't live in the San Francisco area, because I would not be able to resist just like mocking up a really good looking pair of like not what looks like a really not final pair of goggles, and then just quietly being at a Wendy's and just wearing them and like looking around and like using my hands and then like taking them off and being shocked that people are looking at me and take my picture. Oh my God, and stuffing this in a bag just to see how many people I can catfish with these things. Catfishing with Apple goggles.
The rumor mill's going crazy about it. I mean, the YouTube video after video, everything I've seen looks kind of like a conventional VR headset. Yeah. But we've heard rumors there are 14 cameras. There may be cameras looking out as well as looking in, so that you could see the world around you, but also people around you might be able to see your face on a screen. It's going to be lots of rumors.
When you think about it, that's another thing that kind of I think parallels with the iPhone and the iPad and the Apple Watch. None of these things were like, oh my God, we had no idea. What a wonderful surprise. It's like the year before the iPhone, everybody knew that Apple was close to shipping an iPhone. The year before the iPad, everybody knew Apple was close to shipping some sort of a tablet, to the point where the week before or the month before that January event, everybody was speculating as to, okay, it can't be cheaper than $999. It will probably run a slimmed down version of Mac OS, or will it run an enhanced version of iOS? So I really think that this is tracking very, very closely. We're getting a lot of anxious people who are now basically saying that we're ready for you to release the thing, whatever the thing is. We've got the $3,000 in an envelope under the mattress, and please give it to us before we find something else to spend this $3,000.
They wanted to give George enough time to save up for this. Absolutely, that was.
You need to save up for this. You really do.
Yeah.
Nicholas, do you do articles on AR, VR?
Yeah. We've done a little bit of VR stuff. I personally own a Quest. I personally had the Rift back in the day. So I'm an enthusiast in this space. But as far as like CR goes, that's one of the things. Is there a lot of consumer demand for this type of content? I've done stories here and there, and they haven't done super well. So I don't know if that means anything. But I am very curious. Like, my personal thing is that if anyone can sort of like figure this out, I guess it's Apple. $3,000. I mean, to me, that seems expensive. But what do I know? But as far as like a mass market consumer device, that feels kind of pricey. But again, I'm happy to be convinced. Again, if anyone can sort of figure this out, I guess it's Apple. But yeah, we do a little bit here and there. It's just not quite a huge consumer demand for this type of stuff yet. And I guess we'll see.
That's interesting because the people who use Quests love them. And
for sure,
but it isn't a large portion of the tech buying audience.
Yeah, and I wonder, once it gets beyond the enthusiasts, the guys who have the huge gaming PCs that they plug in and they're all about it. Will my adopted mom sit there with a headset for any amount of time? I kind of doubt
that's
it.
The leap. That's the leap I'm really puzzled about. Yeah. I don't. Yeah.
I might. I'm a nerd, but will the man on the street in Times Square, is he? I guess we'll see.
You know what the thing though is I don't think that it's because like most of the people that I have try out VR, they're like soccer moms and people that are not at all techies love it. Sure. Like they absolutely love it, eat it up, want to come over. Every time they come over, they want to try it out, try the new experience, go to this museum, visit this Mayan temple. Like they enjoy all of the different experiences with it. It is this arduous amount of like setup and computers and putting up the wires. Like that barrier to entry is just so big that I wonder if Apple can do it so that it's more Quest-like. Like it's really just kind of plug and play. You can use it and not have to worry. If that would make a difference so that and a little bit of the vertigo is still happening. I don't know, that's still a big deal. I still have some people that get quite ill, even though we kind of understand lots of the mechanisms that are at play to create that feeling of like vertigo and nausea that you can get afterwards. So I'm wondering if Apple could do it in a way that, just like the iPhone was so much easier to use when it came out versus, the Zyre, People's Trios.
Well, let me ask you this. Is the Quest, which doesn't have all that set up, is it not as good as a result?
No.
So you really So you really want a Vive or a Rift. You really don't want. You need to have cameras on the.
Yeah. It depends on what you're using it for. If you are using this to game and you want to play a very immersive game with a lot of frame rate. Having the extra cameras, it's a deal changer, right? You get the two controllers, you get the different cameras, you can play a higher frame rate. You need that system. It's still a very intensive system. If you're just going to be using the experience to, do a little fishing game or watching movies or, attend a concert or do an experience where you're, going to Louvre and going to a museum or IKEA, then it's not that big of a deal. So I think that it's also how you use it.
So maybe the trick for Apple and any company that wants to succeed in this is getting the quality of a Rift or a Vive onto something as easy to set up as a Quest. If you could do that, then you might really have a product. And even better if you could keep it from making people throw up. Even better, right?
Even better, yeah.
I'm convinced, by the way, that it's about, I think the Air Force said 11% of the population, but there's some intractable percentage of the population that will never be able to use these without becoming nauseated.
I will say, when the PlayStation VR came out a few years ago, I tried that at a trade show in New York City. I could not sleep that night. I was so nauseous from, I was using it at 6 p.m. in the evening, messed around with a bunch of games. I did not sleep that evening. That's not to pick on Sony or whatever, but I couldn't. I was so affected by that. That hasn't happened since. I had since played Resident Evil 7 in PlayStation VR, and it was pretty much fine. I played Half-Life in VR, fine. So I don't really know. But
there's still
I had one very bad experience.
There's still some games that will make me queasy. I was playing No Man's Sky the other day, and it made me queasy, whereas I played Valheim for literally 1,000 hours and never once got queasy. So, and that's not with a headset. That's just in front of a big screen. So there's head bob or something that's causing that. But I think that there is a disconnect between the focal length of the object you're looking at and the convergence distance of the object, because your eyes are converging on a nearby object, but the object seems to be at a greater distance. And I believe that that's your brain saying, you ate bad mushrooms, you better throw those up. And I don't know if you could fix that. I don't know if you could fix that.
No, but you are accurate with that, but it's often where the horizon is and the feedback in your head versus the feedback that's happening on the horizon of what you're looking at. And also for people that often, like I usually do the point and click movement versus the real-time movement, because that decreases the chance of getting ill. So games where you're spinning and you're getting different information, like flying games or zooming, have a much greater chance of...
just thinking about it.
But you're absolutely right. It is us saying that you're not feeling well. Maybe you ate something, because why would the ground be moving when you're not actually moving?
Aaron Space Magazine wrote an article 20 years ago called Barfology, based on research done by the... I know, isn't that a good name? Based on research done by the Air Force.
What was your minor in your master's program at Carnegie Mellon? I minored in barfology. Delta Chi, right?
but the Air Force, after much study of simulator sickness and things like that, has concluded that about 10 or 11% of everybody is, to the point where some people shouldn't drive a car for 24 hours after being in a simulator. In one study, Stanley and Kennedy found that about 10% of simulator users reported vision-related symptoms like a headache. Another 7.5% reported nausea. 5% suffered from disorientation while using a virtual reality helmet. Now, this is 20 years ago. 25% experienced nausea. 30% disorientation. The industry says, it's frame rate, it's resolution, we can fix this. They're going to have to. That's another thing they're going to have to figure out before they make this a mass market product, right?
Well, that's another question. Are they going to make it a mass market product? There are a few companies that are actually having pretty good success with these kinds of wearables. Call them augmented reality, call them virtual reality. Most of them have to do either these really cheap headsets that are good for entertainment that are mass market, but most of them are for the military use, medical use, industrial use, verticals. Basically, situations in which the one that makes the most sense to me that keeps coming up in these explanations are when people are repairing aircraft, all the checklists that they have to go through, all the paperwork that they have to manage to make sure that when they check and fix a brake system on an airplane, they can certify that, yes, this was done in the proper order. I'm going to photograph what needs to be photographed. I'm going to record what readings that were taken. And I'm going to basically affirm each step of this process. And also, I'm going to have this checklist in front of me so I remember what has to be done in order to do this job safely. And the ability to simply take all those binders and all that paperwork and even those slates out of the way and basically have a wearable that keeps that documentation in somewhere in your line of sight while you're doing it, and being able to actually create these records while you go, that saves a hell of a lot of money. And there are companies that are happily going to spend $3,000 for people who are going to be wearing these for maybe a half hour at a time or 20 minutes at a time. They're not going to be wearing them full time, so that's not really an issue. I mean, I keep trying to figure out what Apple could do to make this really palatable to somebody who has these Buck Rogers attitudes about what they expect a virtual reality or augmented reality goggles system to go. And I don't have that much imagination. I keep thinking of it as something like a Mac Pro, where we're shocked when you look at the configurator. Oh my God, there are people. It's possible to configure this so it costs $16,000. But then you remember, that there are people that will say, "Great, I know what 2 clients I'm going to bill this to, and it'll be because I'm making it's so important for these jobs that I'm doing, and I know that it will make its money back." Those are the people I think that are most eager to be able to create content for a $3,000 headset. That, especially if it's something that, hey, yes, we finished the addition to this park, this museum building, put on these goggles and we'll walk you through it. Again, I don't know how they're going to fix the nausea issue if they're going to say that we're going to create a new worktop environment that you're going to want to spend 3 or 4 hours in. That's going to be a hard sell.
Yeah. Well, I do think augmented reality has somewhat different issues than virtual reality, because at least you could see. I don't know if you have the same nausea issues.
No, I mean, I used to. I'm one of those idiots who used to wear Google Glass like all the time, because when I went on my daily walks, I really enjoyed because it was just this little screen that was off to the side. I wouldn't be surprised if that's something that Apple has been playing with, the idea of having something like an Apple Watch where it's not designed to be an immersive environment. It's just designed to put just the data, then just the tools that you need at a place where it's more convenient than taking a phone out of your pocket. And that those are also the only display technologies that I have come across, even experimentally, that can convincingly be built inside a pair of glasses, but usually a pair of Buddy Holly glasses. But at least you won't be like tackled to the ground and frisked when you're walking through an area wearing these damn things. So all things are on the table. There are times where I have to understand that there's almost nothing that I know for sure about this thing, and I have to have my mind open to almost anything could be released almost at any time. Again, I still don't think until 2023, but I will not be surprised by anything that Apple comes up with, because I think that a lot of things are on the table.
One thing Apple is doing right, and I can tell because Microsoft is responding, is it's Apple Silicon, it's M1 chips. Microsoft had its developer conference this week, Build, and announced they're going to make a developer box, Project Volterra, they're calling it, that has, I know, it's a comic book name.
Okay, good for them.
It has an ARM-based version of Visual Studio 2022, their programming environment, and a little ARM-based Windows PC running Windows for ARM. Now, the video, this is the video. Doesn't have anything to do with
any... It looks like Mordor.
It looks like Mordor. It's the strangest video.
It looks very ominous.
It's ominous. The rocks are breaking. The lava is coming. Get out, run while you still can. No. This is just a new computer. They did not say when it would be available. They did not say how much it would be. They did not say what chip it would run. They did not say anything. But I think this is very much, look at it. It's a Mac Mini, built for Windows developers to use Windows on ARM. One of the things they did mention, which is kind of interesting, is it has it's a 3 kind of unit. Oh, by the way, made from beautiful recycled ocean plastic. And for some
that's
reason,
why there's so much plastic in there. Microsoft is dumping plastic as their refining technique, and then harvesting the cut. Oh.
And one of the things they keep showing is stacked, so it's stackable. Although no developer I know wants 2 of these things, but I do think that they are pushing it as an AI device, and they're mentioning the fact that it has its own neural processor unit, and that will connect with Azure, some sort of Azure support, so some sort of kind of offloading to the cloud capability. Microsoft's Panos Panay said, "We want you to build cloud-native AI applications with native ARM64 Visual Studio.NET support. Project Volterra is coming later this year. New tools to help you take the first step on this journey." Honestly, I really think they rushed this announcement because they're so nervous about M1 and now M2, and Apple's really getting an awful lot of attention for that. Intel also responding. Their 12th generation processors now have efficiency cores, kind of like the ARM processors. I feel like Apple did really kind of surprise the PC world, and they're trying to respond as quickly as they can.
Yeah, the same thing about Google and their own AI-based processors. They're Google Silicon, and it might be based largely on Samsung's Exynos processors, but still,
it's got a TPU in there. Yeah, right.
Yeah. I mean, after 10 years of the iPhone, manufacturers are getting the idea that you can't just simply rely on Intel or Qualcomm to deliver the chip that you absolutely need at the time when you actually need it. If you want to control your own destiny and make the products that will help you live, thrive, and survive, you're going to have to basically own the whole widget, just like Mr. Jobs said years and years and years ago.
Yeah. All right, let's take a little break. Final thoughts, final stories coming up in just a little bit, but our show today brought to you by something I want you all to know about. I use religiously. It's my privacy cards from privacy.com. Privacy lets you create real credit cards that you can use online. There are 2 different kinds. There's burner cards that can only be used once. So there's never any risk of them being stolen and used anywhere else. And there's merchant locked cards that the minute you use it with a merchant can only be used by that merchant, all of which makes your life much more secure, makes you feel better about using credit cards online. They have plugins for Firefox and Chrome. And when you use this credit card, as I do with every online purchase, you can put any address, any name you want. Privacy will approve it because they know it's you. So it masks your real bank information. You never have to worry about giving it out to strangers online. It's a great tool for subscriptions. If you're about to sign up for something that's going to have a recurring payment, use your privacy.com card because you'll never be overcharged. You could set a limit per charge, per month, per week, per year, but you can also pause a card so that they can't overcharge you. I've had this happen before where I signed up for a gym membership, didn't realize that the trainer sessions were separate. When I canceled the gym membership, they kept charging me for the trainer for months. When I finally figured it out, the credit card company said, well, it's been more than 3 months, nothing we can do for you. Never will have that problem again. I use privacy everywhere. Just press pause, privacy blocks the charges. They'll notify you if they try to charge over the allotted amount. You'll see every time the card is declined, so you'll know immediately if somebody's trying to steal it or use it inappropriately. It's also great for card sharing. So I often create cards for my mom, for instance. She cooked for me her whole life. She's 88 now. She's kind of tired of cooking. I said, Mom, let me buy you dinner. She's out your way, Andy, in Rhode Island. So I sent her a privacy card, and I said, use this. Just know that when you use it for a restaurant or a meal delivery, they're the only ones that can use it ever again. So keep using it for that service. And then I see whenever she uses it, it's kind of a nice feeling. But I didn't have to text her a card number or I just used the privacy.com card sharing, went to the website, created the card, gave them her email address. They took care of the rest. She doesn't have to have a privacy account. It's a secure way to make sharing a credit card number very, very easy. You'll get complete account summaries. You can tag purchases now, so it really gives you a lot of control over how you're viewing it, how you're sorting it. I love privacy.com. Check it out. Protect your financial identity online using virtual cards. I've literally created hundreds of them. Privacy.com/twit. You'll get $5 for a new account, $5 to spend on your first purchase. This is a nice way of saying welcome. Privacy.com/twit. Sign up right now. New customers get $5 to spend on their first purchase automatically. I just think this is such a great idea. Companies used to do this. I remember, I think a couple of my credit card companies used to do it, and they stopped. Now I just do it with privacy all the time. A really good way of protecting yourself online. Privacy.com/twit. We thank them so much for supporting Twit. We had a fun week this week on Twit, and we've got a little mini movie to show you all the good stuff.
So what does it take to repair an iPhone? If you ask Apple, they'll ship you 2 gigantic boxes and say good luck.
Previously on Twit.
I wanted to give people an idea of what it's like to actually go through Apple's self-service repair program. And only 2 of the 3 shipments that were supposed to be coming actually arrived. As soon as you get the tools, your 7-day rental period begins. But I can't do the repair, I can't use the tools until I get the battery. If I don't get these sent back to UPS tomorrow, then that $1,100 temporary charge will stay on the card.
Windows Weekly.
The second version of Windows 11, 22H2, is complete.
Oh, well, that is a big story.
And
I just feel like our expectations about Windows have to change. Like we used to be thinking there'd be some huge feature, something secret. That's not going to happen anymore, right?
well, we know what one of them is that tabbed File Explorer.
No.
No? Okay. You're like the crusher of dreams.
This Week in Google.
Seth Green decided that he would like to make a Bored Ape cartoon show until his Bored Ape got stolen. Darkwing 84 could sue Seth Green because technically he owns the copyright.
Wait,
Counselor, is that the case or not?
Eye rolls all
eye
around.
rolls. There's so much going wrong here because this is not how it works.
Twit.
This actually makes copyright look good, and I resent that.
Unbelievable as always.
let's quickly check the Elon Musk Twitter feed just to see the latest. Here is a picture of Elon setting the bird free. I don't know. You make of it what you want. He's trying to get out of the deal, I think, or at least get the price down. Twitter's shareholders are now suing him, saying, you better pay $54.20. Incidentally, Elon stole this cartoon from a cartoonist and did not give credit where credit's due, but we're gonna do that. Somebody posted in a response to Elon the original cartoon with the Chinese artist's name clearly visible. Exactly. Look at Elon's post. He erased it. He erased it and then posted it. Not cool, Elon. Not cool. And I think Elon just loves to stir up the trouble. So forget it. Forget it.
He went from hero to villain so quickly.
No kidding.
Like, it's just ridiculous how quickly he was, this wonder. He's going to do all these great things, and now he's kind of
He's a
mostly
jerky
reviled.
jerk. I think he's a jerk. He, by the way, 3 years ago, he tweeted, I wish people would stop crediting artists on Twitter when any fool could find out who the artist was in seconds. Okay.
Well, obviously not every fool. We found one.
Good Lord, Elon. Jeez. Well, that's kind of proactive, I guess. You know, he knew he was 3 years later going to do that. Peter Thiel has left Meta's board. He got a board seat when he was one of the very first people to support Twitter. I think it was a $500,000 investment that turned into billions for Peter Thiel. I'm not sure why he's leaving the board, and I don't know if it'll make a difference. If I were on the board of any social media company, I would think this might be a great time to take the money and run. Yeah. Mark is being personally sued, Mark Zuckerberg, by the District of Columbia Attorney General over the Cambridge Analytica scandal. That was 5 years ago. But he says Mark ought to know personally, so he's being personally sued, saying Zuckerberg was directly responsible for creating the lax privacy rules that allowed Cambridge Analytica to harvest data about Facebook users back in 2015 and 2016. Twitter has to pay $150 million over privacy violations. Facebook did this first. Twitter did it too. You know how they ask for a phone number for authentication, a backup or recovery number? Turns out Facebook and Twitter both used that then for advertising purposes. The company was sued by the Justice Department and the Federal Trade Commission. They've settled for a mere $150 million.
Yeah, I felt as a matter of fact, I finally had to cave in and give Facebook and Instagram my phone number for two-factor authentication, and I'm like, nothing good. Nothing good can come of this. I mean, it's two-factor authentication is important, but
don't give them your number.
Oh, Andy.
Yeah. Well, that's when I left. Actually, I'm still on Twitter, but now I know they've been using that. Do you know Halsey, the recording artist? I love her music. Mm-hmm. I think she's quite good. She posted a TikTok on saying, well, I'll read you the text. She's actually playing her newest song. I won't do it because I don't want TikTok to take us down. But she says, basically, I have a song that I love that I want to release ASAP, but my record label won't let me. I've been in this industry for 8 years, says Halsey. I've sold over 165 million records. But my record company says I can't release this song unless they can fake a viral moment on TikTok. Everything is marketing, and they're doing this basically to every artist these days. I just want to release music, man, and I deserve better, to be honest. I'm tired. 8 million views in 24 hours for that video. So I guess the record company's going to release the song.
So, isn't there a subreddit about that entitled "Malicious Compliance"?
Yeah, exactly. It is too bad when, she's 165 million records. She's obviously a very successful artist.
Yeah. This is what labels are just not pulling their weight. The power that a creator has to forge their own path, build their own audience, and then monetize that audience on their own without dealing with crap like this. I mean, I think there are a lot of people, there are a lot of artists that said we can either give you the chance of being as big as the Foo Fighters, but you'll have to deal with record labels and all that kind of management, or you could make an extremely good living off of your music for the rest of your life, limited to not being a cajillionaire, but you'll never have to deal with a text message saying, yeah, we're not liking the thumbnail that you've got on your TikTok. Can you make it more of an astonished face? Because there's a study that says if you have an astonished face that people will click on it more. Dude, I'm trying to coalesce all of human misery and experience into a simple, spiffy 3.5 minute song. I don't care about thumbnails.
But I have to say, Georgia, your astonished faces are very good on your TikTok videos.
People do click on. They
do you notice that? It works better if you got if you're making a weird face. You're not too bad.
I
Renee,
do too, though.
Renee's gone really down that rabbit hole.
If people like it, and if you're crying or really upset, I don't do the I'm often crying in the videos, but I don't usually have cry. I had one where I didn't I do the thumbnails. They're not from the video, and they're like, you didn't make exactly that face, and I am disappointed in you. That's funny. I'm like, I do them before,
You're good though. You got a nice rubber face. You can do some good faces on here. It's not as it's not as bad as it could be. I like. It's
not as bad as it could be. Some of them are ridiculous. I'll say it. Some of them are ridiculous. I admit to it. Yeah, I have some. I'm wearing ears in some of them too. I'm like,
do pointy ears work well on your YouTube videos? Is that a good?
I asked my people if I did two that I mildly cosplay the people that I'm doing. So it was a bear, anyways. And I asked are the ears too much? But my people said no.
I actually think they're kind of hot. Didn't you have pointy ears on Twit last time you were on, or maybe I was just? Maybe that was a dream. I don't know.
I don't know. I might have been. I'm not sure. I don't remember.
Why is it pointy ears are hot? What is that? What is that all about?
Are they?
Therapist, you better explain. Elves.
That'll be a video.
Sexy elves.
Elves are awesome.
Sexy elves.
She could tell you, but I think she's going to have to charge you her hourly rate.
And here's a new definition of chutzpah. Elizabeth Holmes has asked the judge to overturn her Theranos convictions because there was insufficient evidence. Apparently, even though the jury convicted her, her attorney says no rational juror would have convicted her. No rational juror could have found the elements of wire fraud and conspiracy to commit wire fraud beyond a reasonable doubt, Your Honor. So throw out those 4 fraud-related charges she was convicted on in January. She's due to be sentenced in September. Maybe this is just what you do. Maybe, I don't know. Yeah. I'm not a lawyer. You just say, Your Honor, that jury's nuts.
Well, maybe someone gave her she's paying for it through an Amazon gift card or something, and there's still another $30,000 left on the card. And if she doesn't use it, it's going to expire in a year. So she may as well just have the lawyer just keep running until the card is expired.
To avoid
the most interesting thing for me about her is that she faked how deep her voice is.
I know. She talked like this. I know.
That's the coolest thing to me, that she actually planned that all out. This was really serious, thought out stuff to be able to have people give her more money, that they would trust her more because, women that speak with a deeper voice.
A more positive look on it, which is kind of the feminist take, which is, as a woman entrepreneur, she probably thought having too feminine of a voice she might face discrimination in the market, and so she decided she should sound more authoritative with a deeper voice. It was a little weird, but I think that maybe the spirit of it was sensible. I don't know.
There's a lot. It's like you ever walk past a pond and you just look at the surface of that frozen water and think that, you know what, I'm not even gonna
There's a
step
lot
one
down
foot on
there.
that because exactly that's a deep plunge and I want no part of that.
Nicholas, would you say that would be like consumer reports would say like that's like kind of fraud? I'm just
I don't know. It's a little. I was also impressed that, wow, this is a long thought out thing, I guess. I don't know.
So, Georgia, can you do that?
Did you ever get an Edison unit to review?
Yeah, really. No, I'm afraid that's a trade secret. Georgia, can you try can you talk like that?
I can try to talk with a much deeper octave voice. I don't know if anyone.
You sound
would really
like Elizabeth Holmes.
Do I sound like
Yes,
Elizabeth
you
Holmes?
sound
Can I
just
speak
like
that?
So you could do
Is there more
that.
chance you'll give me money?
You could do that, right? Would you ever consider doing that?
I could try.
I wish, but my voice in my head is like 1 or 2 octaves deeper than what it actually sounds like. So
Right.
I'm always shocked by how high pitched my voice
Right.
actually is.
Right.
So I wish I sounded like Demi Moore. I think that she has that would be my favorite voice. But unfortunately, that isn't why I ended up with a really kind of high.
I like your voice. You don't need to fake it. Absolutely not. That's silly. I'm not going to.
When I'm sick, I have a deeper voice.
Yes. Or when you first wake up. Hello. Last payphone in New York City, the last one owned by the city, was removed. The city once had more than 6,000 public phones, but they've all been replaced by Wi-Fi kiosks. And there it goes.
Yeah.
The last public. Now, they're privately owned payphones in New York. Although I know somebody who owns them, or some of them, and he says they're all cell phones.
Yeah,
they're just cell phones. The last of the public payphones will not end up in a landfill. It's going to go to the Museum of the City of New York to be an exhibit for young people. You used to have a dime that you could go and call home.
I hope if they're curating this correctly, they're gonna scrub that down and disinfect it really well, but also they're going to find some chemical they can apply to it that smells like it's recently.
Can I
been
just
teed
point
upon.
out, this phone has clearly already been sanitized. There's no way a payphone in New York City looks as clean as that. Somebody before the photo op cleaned this sucker off. There's no graffiti.
It's red carpet ready.
There's no vomit. The phone books are intact. Yeah, this is look at this. It's perfectly clean, respectable.
No pigeon strikes.
No pigeons. Anyway, there's going to be
no independent band stickers on it. That's usually you go to payphones just to find out what bands are up and coming.
Next time I'm in New York, that's right, with all the pamphlets. Next time I'm in New York, I'm going to the Museum of the City of New York, Analog City, NYC-BC, before computers. What it looked like before computers. I think that sounds great.
I was looking things up because I was trying to find some answers for myself about why they were existing for quite so long, and there are a lot of questions on Quora from like people who are not like below the age of like 25.
Yeah, what is
asking?
that?
If the phone rang, like how would you know who the call was for? And like, did people used to line up to use it? And I'm like, oh, let me paint you a word picture about a child by the name of Andy Anatgo, 9 or 10 years old. His allowance was a mere pittance. He would go for long walks, sticking his finger in the coin return slots, hoping to find enough change that had been left behind to buy perhaps a Coca-Cola or a Hostess lemon fruit pie.
Aww. Are you old enough, Georgia, to remember payphones?
I do remember payphones. I can't say that there were tons of payphones,
No.
but I do remember payphones.
Did you ever use one? Let me ask you, was it a dime or a quarter? Because dime really
I think it might
shows
have
your
been
age.
2 quarters.
2 quarters.
I don't remember.
Yeah.
I don't know.
Yeah.
I'm not sure how much
They looked like
payphones were,
a health nightmare. I mean, this is a phone that's been sitting on the street of New York for years, and you're going to put this up to your mouth? It just seems like a bad idea.
We were Hellcats back in the 80s and 90s.
I was going to say, about a decade ago, I did a story on payphones in New York City. And
you
and
did?
I spoke to a guy.
Wait a minute.
Yes.
We got the expert on the show. I didn't even know that.
As it happens.
Yeah.
No, but I spoke to the guy and he said that the phone service was like incidental to the money was the ads, the movie coming out. So those things were basically just billboards even a decade ago. I don't know how many folks were using them as like telephones.
Oh, that's interesting.
Yeah, the guy was like, no one's making phone calls. These things are billboards. So, and that was 2011. So,
yeah. I guess the FCC says that in 1999 was peak cell phone with 2.1 million, but then by the early 2010s, it was down by 90%. And then by 2 or 3 years after that, it was down another half after that. And I think now they're saying that the last piece of hard data I could find was that in 2016, there were way fewer than 100,000 in the entire country.
Wow. So these days, does Superman, where does he change? Does he go into a phone booth?
Hey, Superman, the original motion picture, like he tried to find a phone booth. He could only find one of those little like elevated.
Oh, that's right.
Kiosks.
I remember that. Yeah.
Ain't easy being Superman, man.
Well, wait a minute. Now, if you would like, you can buy a phone booth. This is from cubicalbooth.com. Enjoy personal space for those important conversations. Easy installation, ships flat. Build with 60 minutes with just a few tools. Wait a minute. I wonder how. Even the phone booths have been removed. Oh, 404. I thought I had found the solution.
I was going to say, speaking of ocean plastics, we're building phone booths. Jeez.
Oh, no, they still sell them. Phone booths, custom phone booths, and isolation solutions. And maybe you could have a little phone booth therapy office somewhere in downtown Montreal. Georgia Dow. Go to youtube.com/Georgia Dow. You can email her if you need help, Georgia@westmounttherapy.com. Of course, it's not for emergencies, but she's there to talk to people. And she also has some really great videos that I highly recommend on anxiety, parenting, sleeping, depression. They're all at anxiety-videos.com. Do you still get orders for DVDs, or is it all online now?
Now it's all mostly online, so very few people. There's still some people that will ask, but like most people will just download it.
It's kind of cool. I'm going to keep these. These are collector's items. I'll keep this in my phone booth.
They're great coasters for drinks and stuff.
Anxiety-videos.com. Get the DVD. It's a collector's item. Thank you, Georgia. It's really great to see you.
Thanks for having me.
Anything you want to plug? You said your next thing is Stranger Things. You're going to do the
Next thing is Stranger Things.
Hellfire Club.
And I don't have the link, but I have my Nebula class that's going to be coming up. So if you get the Nebula app, my class is launching on Tuesday, which is on dealing with anxiety. And it's just a full class. And it's brand new. And I think it's nebula.app/Georgia Dow.
Nice.
And so I'm kind of excited. I got to go to New York and film a whole class on dealing with anxiety. So that's kind of a new thing that I'm excited about.
That's really cool.
Yeah.
So Nebula is kind of like the subscription service. Your videos and Renee's videos are part of.
And
really cool.
And you get it's really a really nice streaming service that you are able to get, and then you get to get the classes, and this is like a special master's class kind of thing. I don't know if I'm allowed to say master's class. That might be copyrighted, but it's like that.
In your case, it's a mistress class. How about that? I don't think they own that.
Maybe.
It is nebula.app/Georgia Dow. Thank you, Georgia. It's always nice to see you. Thank you for being here. Andy Anatko, I see you every week, but I still love hearing from you. He is at ihnatko.com. You'll hear him on Thursdays and sometimes Fridays on WGBH Boston. And every Tuesday on MacBreak Weekly. Plus, don't forget, if you're into Android, his Material podcast that he does with Florence Ion on relay.fm. Anything else? Have I plugged it all?
I think you've plugged it on. I'm on Thursday this week at 12:50 in the morning. You can stream it live or later at wgbhnews.org, or go there to find any of the weekly tech roundups, news roundups I've done for the past 3 or 4 years.
And enjoy Bob's Burgers.
I will. Again, I've got the burger. It wasn't just this movie theater. It was I've got to find a movie theater with a really great burger place, independently owned, within a 20-minute walk afterward, because it would be a damn shame to watch the feature film and then not get a great burger afterward.
No, I'm really curious where that could be. So you're going to go see it when? When are you going to see Bob's Burgers?
Probably Wednesday.
Right.
I was going to do it. I was going to do it Monday, but I did that freelancer thing where I forgot that this was actually a holiday weekend.
Oh, that thing.
Because stupid me, I was working on Friday and Saturday because you got to work. But yeah,
I'm glad you didn't know, because we actually had a hard time getting people for today's show because of the Memorial Day weekend. So I'm glad
too many
you
clam
didn't know.
bakes.
Yeah.
Well, also it's a Sunday, so most people are at mass. So
yeah, right. Nicholas De Leon, the wonderful senior electronics reporter at Consumer Reports. We love your work. And I'm going to have to go find your phone booth article now. That's hysterical.
Oh, that's long gone, long deleted.
Was that for Vice?
That was News Corp's. No, that was News Corp's The Daily.
Oh, it was The Daily.
The iPad.
Yeah.
Yes. That was one of my earlier stories.
I forgot you worked in that nice newsroom that they had. Yeah.
Yes, for about 18 months, and then they shut it down.
Gone.
It was fun while it lasted, I guess.
Great to have you on, Nicholas. Thank you for the work you do. I'll look forward to your review of office chairs. I can't wait.
Yeah, if I may, that's coming up probably this week. We did a big kind of test on ergonomic office chairs, so that's coming up this week. Probably next month we'll have a thing on gaming chairs, similar story.
Okay.
And if folks want to plug another random story that folks might like, we did a story recently on how to delete a bunch of email. I basically deleted more than 100,000 emails from my Gmail account over the span of a day and change. So folks maybe listening maybe know how to do that, but if you're the family tech guy and you want to help folks kind of manage their email, we've got some tips in there that may be helpful. So
wow, that's like somebody with long hair getting their hair cut. That's kind of wow.
Yeah, no, it was funny. I was deleting so many emails, I lost access to my account. It kept erroring out. I assume Google thought that I was hacking my account, because I'm deleting thousands at a clip. I had the account going back to 2008 or so, and deleted maybe 5 emails over the life of the account. I just kind of marked as read and moved on.
Yeah, I save everything. I don't want to delete emails. That's my history.
So they're all gone now.
100,000 emails.
Yeah.
Wow. Well, I also want to wish everybody, I don't want to say pleasant Memorial Day weekend. This is tomorrow's the day we remember those who've given their lives in the service of this country. And we don't want to forget that, because that's the ultimate sacrifice. So while you're thinking about that and remembering that, I do hope you also remember to have a great Memorial Day weekend. And we will see you on Twit next week. Thanks for joining us. Another Twit.
This is amazing.
Bye-bye.